how did they do?
Go through after that.
Ooh. Exactly it.
Oh, no. And that wait.
Originally said it could be-
I need to get some red flannels on there.
I said I usually bring my blanket, and I did, but it's in the car.
I always
Jumped out of the car too fast.
Radiation,
Because I knew that it was clear to walk across the street.
yeah, because they had found not only on our lung. And our brain, knock that out.
Not much there.
Both doctors are feeling that it's good results with the combination that they're using. Biggest problem right now. Just wander here, just right. Doesn't bother her going without the makeup.
Is that one of your boys?
Yes.
Growing up, aren't they?
Yours can grow back. Mine can't.
Are you still doing scouts?
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, goodness.
I'll see the humor.
Doing what you.
Lisa, do you need this back? Or are we passing?
You gonna go to Michigan too?
We forced her to go to the hospital. Otherwise we wouldn't know anything.
Cool.
Uh-huh. Okay.
She was having a lot of trouble with pains in the chest. And
It was cringy.
finally got her to go see her doctor
Uh,
3 years ago.
I think I met your mother-in-law.
Did you see the
Live with you guys.
his response letter? But I never saw
Okay. I was out getting my coat.
Yeah, it was like at the bot.
because for some reason once in a while I don't
I
get it.
met
So
her.
I
I
printed it
couldn't
out.
quite figure out where she was from until after I left.
Wanted to make sure you guys could see.
Yeah,
'Cause I
yeah.
thought-
Nice lady.
I know, right? You're like, wait, what?
yeah.
Yeah, let's see what, yeah, absolutely.
Did you see that?
What?
Had you seen the
Coughing. 2 years ago, she had.
okay. Because for some reason, it didn't change. So I just had to print it out. So I could see
Oh,
it.
that wasn't on the emails.
Right.
Fluid in there.
I was at the meeting.
And hard to clean that out.
How'd that go?
I think they kind of slowed down now.
Roll.
Yeah,
See if they could figure something
Yeah.
out. Okay.
because they were gonna ready to vote it out.
Okay.
All that were active. Don't do much.
On the outside of the line. But it's into
We
the.
have enough money to get through the end of the budget at least. Give them a chance.
In the neck.
Work house, huh?
That's where the radiation has been concentrated on those two.
I have a water bottle for reusable water.
But so
3 days.
at least there's a chance.
Did I give you, so Clint told me to tell you that he's not had particularly fabulous germination with the butternut squash.
Okay.
So if they don't grow for her, he's got some other ones that are saved seed that he just can't guarantee the,
Sure.
but he can't guarantee the variety.
Sure.
That makes sense.
It does.
Madam Mayor,
3 days.
Pamela indicates she might be about a half hour late.
Okay. And Ms. Nixon is on call and has to have her.
It's on
whatever-
silent, but I'll see it light up.
Okay, so, and in the event that she has to leave, we will excuse her. Because
You know what, do one more thing.
nurses and teachers are doing extra.
Trying to find your phone.
We did get that
Nope, it's the
recorded
one,
though,
I
right?
think, below it or above it. It's right
Sure,
there.
we'll add it.
We'll
I just
blame
add it to the
noise on the feedback in the mic.
I would say, I have a,
I don't have one on you and I thought,
I have it in my purse.
yeah, it's like free after, so I thought I'd
Thank
just
you.
throw you one just in case.
I have so much stuff. I gotta pull my petition because my term is up.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I saw, I just saw that in the paper
Oh, you
today.
found
Two
those?
were
All right,
up.
take
Yep,
my
I'm
other one
good.
back. All right.
I got stuff.
Okay.
Got stuff. All right, let me get this turned on. Give me the keys. I should quit being, this is Medford County, Forest Hills. Right?
New hat.
New hat. And I'm like, I have a 6-hour prep, so I'm subbing for everyone. And, okay, is the microphone on? And let me get, I have this, I just don't have it up on my computer. Get the packet. I am going to call the meeting, the regular meeting of the Cedar Springs City Council to order at 7:05. Please rise with me and say the pledge if you feel so inclined. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Ms. Atchison.
Here.
Mr. Gross.
Here.
Ms. Hamel is probably going to be a little bit late. Ms. Nixon.
Here.
Ms. Powell.
Here.
Ms. Race.
Here.
And Mayor Conley is here. I will take a motion to excuse Ms. Hamel at this time.
I'll make that motion. I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Hamel is excused. She comes in late. We will be thrilled to have her. At this time, we're moving on to public comments. The council welcomes and encourages the public to speak during the public comment and the public hearing portions of the agenda. However, council policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the city manager for action. If after communicating with the city manager, no resolution is reached, the concern will be elevated to the mayor, and then eventually to the council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the council meeting that citizens are allowed to address the council. If you would like a response, please state your name and address for the record. Come on down.
Good evening. My name is Kamey, Kamey, Howe. How I am the director of the library, and I am here to give you an update on what happened at the library last month. So for adults, there was 11 attendees at the writers group, 27 attendees at the Stitch and Chatter. There were 2 new adults added to the winter reading bingo for a total of 34 participants, 32 donors at the blood drive, and there is another blood drive this month. And going forward, the library will be a site for monthly blood drives. There was a National Chocolate Day contest on Facebook that 23 community members participated in. For our citizens from 0 to 4, there were 15 kiddos at the toddler sensory bin program. There were 3 new readers added to the winter reading bingo for a total of 34. For ages 5 to 10, there were 6 new readers added to the winter reading bingo for a total of 35, and 20 kids at the glow in the dark party. For kids 11 to 17, there were 2 new readers added to the winter reading bingo for a total of 17. 7 kids showed up for the DIY wood and vinyl project, and 16 students from CTA came to visit our library this past month in February. and 154 kids attended story time.
Woo.
Great job.
Thank you. We appreciate all of the wonderful things you're doing with our library. Anyone else? Nothing? Okay. Then we will move on.
Ms. Conley,
Yes.
I do see a couple members of the public online.
Oh, sure.
Ask for public comment.
That would be amazing. Do we have some folks on Zoom who would like to talk?
I
Ki-
don't hear any.
KDW, if you can hear us, would you like to make a public comment?
The chair is recognizing KDW if you would like a public comment.
Hi, this is Katie Ladishkin. I just saw on the agenda that you guys were going to be discussing the non-conforming units. And so I'm just listening in to hear your side.
Okay. No comment?
I mean, I feel like at the last meeting, we definitely made comments, so I
Good
don't want to
enough.
keep it going too long.
Oh, that's fine. I just want to make sure if you have something to say or need to be heard, that you get to be heard.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Is that your understanding of everyone, Miss?
Correct.
Okay. So we will move on then to the adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
If I may, Ms. Rice?
The agenda.
So adoption of the agenda, first of
Thank
all,
you.
but I'd like to add something if I could.
Yes.
I'd like to add a consent agenda item D. I'm sure Ms.
Yeah,
Johnson
so-
has the language, but it is to add a item to your fee schedule, a $50 fee for the reprinting of a marijuana license.
If you lose your license and need to reprint it.
Ms. Johnson, is that sufficient?
Sure. Would you like me to read what I have?
Sure. I would say I have a motion to set a fee for a replacement marijuana license at $50 per license effective immediately. And that'll be item
Agreeable.
D on the consent agenda. We apparently have someone who has one that got lost. They need a replacement. And we didn't have that in our structure. So that'll be an item D. So with that, do I have any other changes or anything anyone would want to put in with the motion to adopt the agenda?
Item C, I read through that
Item C in consent or
Consent.
action?
consent. I read through it, but I still don't understand it. Could we have at least a discussion about it?
Sure. So would you like that moved to? Discussion, item H?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Just as an offer, there is no reason we couldn't just discuss it where it's at right now. And if Ms.
Sure.
Powell is satisfied.
Okay,
Okay.
I would be.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's
All
very
right.
helpful.
Ms. Johnson, I believe this is your item. Did you?
Sure. This is the standard authorization contract for Consumers Energy to add the street lights for Pioneer Trail and Tannenbaum Trail for the new additions up by the White Pine Trail housing.
For the city streetlights?
It would authorize Consumers Energy to install those.
Oh, okay. All right, now is this the time to also add things to action agenda?
Sure.
Is that,
We have not approved the agenda yet. So if there's a change you want to make, this is the time to do it.
Ms. Powell, are you satisfied with Ms. Johnson?
yes, just didn't quite get that. I think I'm good.
Are you good?
Yes.
All right. Then with that one change, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay,
I'll accept that, or I'll second that.
okay, then I will take a roll call. So Miss Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And the mayor votes yes. So we have an agenda. Moving on to consent agenda. Council members may request that any or all items be removed from the consent agenda. A motion is then in order to adopt all items not removed from the consent agenda. Requesting the removal of an item from the consent agenda is a prerogative afforded each council member and does not require the support of other council members. And with that, with the addition of item D, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll support that.
Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, just one minor thing. Ms. Johnson, are you satisfied with the word accept as opposed to approve of?
Yes. I think they're interchangeable.
Just want to make sure that's consent.
Okay, are we good? With that, then I will take a roll call vote because there is some funding money exchange involved. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And Mayor Conley votes yes. Moving on to action items. Item A, a motion to approve of the Red Hawk Drive water main construction bid in amount not to exceed $218,871.50. We want to make sure we get that 50 cents in there.
I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Is this the first time we've looked at this?
I believe so. I mean, you guys have been made aware of it previously, but this is the first time you're seeing the actual dollar amount.
We've talked about the
Right.
overarching piece of it. This is the first time we've seen the bid.
Right. Do we need to expedite this or should we ponder it for another month?
Like everything else, if you don't do it now, it's another month getting into spring.
Yeah.
And
So-
I mean, we've gone through every legal, thing that's required of us. We did have, 4 or 5 bids. So this is
Right.
not a one bid project. It just unfortunately was more expensive than we anticipated.
Well, I was wondering, I see Dean's did bid on it. And they were a little bit higher than Davis. Didn't we have some kind of policy to have Dean's do our work locally or have them the
We had
special?
talked at one time about putting in a policy to try to favor local businesses that if they were within a 10% range, I want to say.
I don't think it ever
was,
passed.
But I don't think it passed. We started that back under staff, but I don't think we ever got there. We couldn't quite come up with, like, what did local mean? Like, did local mean the county? Did local mean an adjacent township? Was it within the city limits? Because I mean, if it's within the city limits, Dean's isn't within the city limits. And then we got into what should be the threshold?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this was more recent as we built the new fire station and there was issues with contractors that weren't doing a very good job.
We do have a policy that requires anybody who touches into our water main system to make the actual physical connection.
Uh-huh.
One of our local people that we know and work with.
Okay.
Mr. LaRose? If you're there? Well, he's probably having mic problems.
No, I'm here, Mike. I was just trying to unmute myself.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, you're muted.
So the question from Ms. Powell is whether we have a policy favoring local groups to do utility connections. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know exactly what the policy was, but I know that there was favored deans to do a certain aspect of construction in our city.
So Mr. LaRose, if it's a policy I'm thinking about, we have a policy regarding the actual connection of new pipe to our water system. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mike, what I think she's talking about is I remember the conversation about contractors doing the fire barn, and wasn't there an ability to use local contractors? I remember a vague conversation about that, but I don't think it ever really went anywhere, other than we adopt the policy that anybody that is going to do a connection or that we're not comfortable with working in our water and sewer system, they have the option to pick from 4 different contractors that were adopted by the city council.
Yeah, we have a list of preferred. Is that right, Mr. LaRose?
Yes, now, the company that did get the bid for the water main, feel quite confident and they're able to do the work, so it's kind of hard, you know.
Rebecca has,
Yes.
In the current purchasing policy, there is language regarding local vendors being able to be chosen over, even if they're higher cost. I don't have the percentage memorized, but it is something that we could look for.
Madam Mayor, may I make a comment?
Please.
We have the ability to also consider into any bid and job capability, past job performance.
Mhm.
If that means that we're going to pay a little bit more and know we're going to get something rather than going with an unknown, we have the right to do that. And I think this is a case where we should consider that. We do know the work, we do know their capability, and they have done a lot of work for us. So DPW, the city is putting in a lot of time with them and know how things work with them. So
Just to clarify, you're saying that, because my understanding is Mr. LaRose is saying that this company we've worked with before, that we have a recommendation from them, and that Mr. LaRose feels comfortable with this company.
We have never worked with them before. Simply what I have is from the engineers saying that they have done this type of work before. They're not a new company.
I see.
Yes,
It
so
was the Fishback recommendation piece that I saw on here. Well, other thoughts from the council? How much difference? What percentage is it if somebody did math?
I don't know. I didn't see the total.
it didn't seem to be that much. But I guess the initial contractor isn't the big issue. It's who they sub things out to was the problem with the fire station, wasn't it?
Yes, and I think we've since adopted a policy that for any large scale project that they have to disclose their subs before we would accept the bid
Okay.
for that very reason,
So,
like a sidewalk project.
Fishbeck recommends this Davis project or the Davis construction. And Bill approves that. Is that my understanding?
I can't say that Fishbeck recommends them. I can say that Fishbeck said they were able to do the work. They felt that they were able to do the work. They were a big enough
Okay.
company and have done that kind of work.
Because what it says is Fishback recommendation on notice of award.
So if I could interject for half a second.
Sure.
I think there's a differentiation going on here on the word recommendation. Fishbeck, they're good engineers.
Right.
They've been the city engineers for
Right,
a
forever.
long time.
There are people.
They know construction companies.
Right.
They're not going to recommend somebody who can't do the work.
Okay.
And they may not feel bound or be even aware of any local policies regarding, 10%.
Right. But Fishback is saying these people can do this.
I think what they're saying here is not only can they do it, but they're the lowest price. Which is generally the deciding factor for most municipalities.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, there's a big difference, almost $90,000.
Right. It's not like 10%.
No,
And 10% on 200 grand is still a big chunk of money.
so,
Yeah, they didn't come in like.
Right. I mean, it's one thing if we're talking about 10% on
right.
a $1,000 thing, but if we're talking about 10% on a $200,000 thing, and it's more than 10%.
So do we feel we need to expedite this and not give it a second look?
If we want to be able to have them start to do this as soon as the ground thaws.
Okay.
I mean, and this is a thing we've been talking about doing for a long
Right,
time.
right.
It's not,
Usually these big action items, we try to look at them twice unless
well,
we
but
have to
we've been
expedite them.
looking at the
Right,
thing. We just haven't looked at the dollars.
yeah, right.
And honestly, if we wait, it could go up.
Well, if we feel we need to expedite it, then let's do it.
I mean,
Out on a
You know?
contractor.
do you have thoughts?
And we may lose out on a contractor.
Right.
If we
true.
keep waiting and we don't get somebody set up for this,
Uh-huh.
we may be waiting longer because other projects are going to come up.
Right, then, so we need to
We
expedite it.
need to expedite it.
Okay.
Well, and I guess I don't even look at it as expediting.
want-
When we
I just,
ask to go out to bid and they come back with the bid, that's kind of when we should do it.
and that's the discussion we should have. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
All right. So do I have a motion?
I have a
I have a
motion by
motion and a
Nixon.
second.
Yep.
Any other discussion? I'll take the vote. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes,
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Race,
Yes.
and Mayor Conley votes yes. Here we go.
Got it.
We got some new water main going. Item B, motion to approve a $1,500 to the Cedar Springs Community Library for their proposed 6-week senior citizen programming.
I would make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
That looks like quite an interesting lineup there. Is that set in stone or?
Ma'am, could you identify yourself, please?
So there is nothing set in stone. However, I have talked with folks in the community that I listed. They are willing and ready to do these things. The only thing that is actually set in stone is the Reader's Theater. They already had that prepared and had that day secured. So that is the only one that, if not approved, will go on. There any other questions that I can?
I would just like to say thank you for offering to step up with the library to help provide these services if the city provides funding, because this is a thing that's really needed for our seniors.
Mhm.
And with the closing and sale of the senior center, this is a very helpful thing to be able to have the library fill in that gap.
Yeah.
So I'm
and-
glad that we can partner with you in that way.
Yes, so we have someone coming from Senior Neighbors next week for the fitness class. If that isn't something that can be worked out, I am a certified yoga instructor. so
Woohoo,
I
because of
can-
course you are.
I can actually just offer that as a program and just facilitate that for the seniors. So that can be something set in stone without this as well.
Do you have to be a senior to come to the yoga class?
You do not. But the class will be geared toward that demographic. So
Silver Sneakers is part of a priority health plan. So that's pretty interesting. Don't they have it at the therapy center just north of town or south of town too?
the Senior Neighbors that contacted us,
Mhm.
she actually is out of Grand Rapids, but she was teaching and hosting somewhere around Cedar Springs and
Mhm.
lost that. I don't know if it was part of the building sale.
Okay.
However, they were looking for that, whether they will be able to provide a Silver Sneakers again. She did not have a trainer. So,
It was in the school. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
so I'm not sure what all happened there. And I know she was looking for a facility and a trainer. But
Well-
again, if that's not something, if they can't find a trainer, I certainly can provide that until they do.
Well, thank you for stepping up to help make this happen. And if us providing a little bit of funding can continue these services for our seniors, that seems really important.
Madam Mayor, could I ask Ms. Howe a question?
Please.
So Ms. Howe, could you talk briefly about how you came to the decision about what programs you want to put on?
Yes, so the seniors had expressed a need for a place. They had expressed it in the library and to some city folks. So the library put together a survey. And at the time, there are more responses. However, at the time of putting this together for the meeting tonight, there was 35 responses. So it was based off what they said they wanted. So that's how we made the decisions. We asked them 10 questions and then an open-ended question. So we took the responses to the 10 and then their suggestions to come up with these programs. And it would be a pilot program.
Sure.
We would be running it would be 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the evening. So we can get a gauge, hopefully, of what timeframes work, how many people are attending. I mean, it's easy to say, yes, I want to do it on a survey, but then to actually go. So this would help us find the right mix of what would be working and
Of course.
not well attended, so.
And Ms. Howe, what were the things that the seniors indicated?
Okay, so what the seniors indicated that they would like to do is they would like programs focused on food and drink. They would like programs focused on arts and crafts. They would like programs focused on games. They would like programs focused on health, aging, and senior resources and fitness. So they did have some interesting programs that they recommended. They recommended themed travel parties. So such as like a Hawaiian luau.
Sure.
They were interested in that. Morning. We did see quite a few mornings and games. So
By games, we mean like
well,
checkers,
they wanted cards.
backgammon.
Yeah, playing cards, playing games, bingo, trivia with a twist, those kinds
Sure.
of things.
Board game kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Any discussion? I really appreciate that the library is stepping up to do this. It's a need for services we have in our community. So with that, I will take a vote. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And Mayor Conley votes yes. So we have some senior programming coming at the library. Motion C, a motion to approve resolution 2022. Do we have a number on that?
I apologize. I do not have a number for you available.
Okay, dash number to be determined.
We'll fill it in.
A resolution to approve submitting the proposed Heart of Cedar Springs Park Improvements Project to the Department of Natural Resources and commit to matching funding. Heart of Cedar Springs Park preliminary estimates of cost and the Heart of Cedar Springs Park Conceptual Plan D, which we've had a variety of meetings on and we've applied for the grant. So do I have a motion?
I would make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'd second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I do have a question,
Sure.
and I'm sure it was brought into play, but in reviewing and looking at the pictures of the playground and so forth, I'm not really seeing anything that would indicate there was any handicap accessibility type events or play areas. Was that taken into consideration?
Actually, that's almost entirely 100% taken into consideration. These types of grants are almost never approved of unless they are fully ADA compliant.
There's actually a term. It's beyond ADA compliant. I forget what the engineer.
Mr. South talked about it, but I don't remember. it.
Yeah, but it's everything in it is actually more than ADA compliant. And part of our design layout needed that to
Reason-
help get us the grant.
The reason I'm asking is because it did become a problem in Morley Park. The fact that we didn't have a wheelchair accessible swing or other things for people that had a handicap of sorts where they needed that. I can see climbing, I can see, stumps and so forth posed in some of the pictures, be climbing up onto, walking with spacing in between and things of that nature. I just didn't pick up on anything, and I wanted to make sure we had addressed that. Having missed the past couple of meetings, I lost out
Yeah,
on
it's,
some of the.
it's actually, that was one of the things that is he an engineer? Is that what we call him?
Yes.
Okay, the engineer that met with us said that, our plan was actually beyond ADA compliant. There's a term for that, when it's like, do you remember what it was? What he said?
No, nuclear.
Anyway, it's not only ADA accessible, it's more than ADA accessible. And that's the width of the paths and the way the parking is structured and then the layout of the playground
I'm
equipment.
content.
No, I'm just saying,
I
it
just
was,
need to know if it was considered,
no, I'm,
that's all.
it's actually part of what he thinks will help us get the grant.
And just one more thing, Mr. Gross, the city is intending on also going back to Riggle Park and Morley Park and trying to make more ADA accessibility there as well.
That's fine.
And
Definitely
It
wanna-
is a need.
And there's a possibility that if we, for that purpose, there might be some additional grant funding for that. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page that that's a thing that we all feel very strongly about. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Mr. Gross.
And this design isn't set in stone. There could be some changes.
Yeah.
in-
Correct. I mean, so we're mostly talking about the dollar amount,
Mhm.
but you're right. Small changes can be made, no problem.
Any other discussion? I'll take the vote then. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes,
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And Mayor Conley votes yes. Moving on to item D, a motion to approve resolution 2022 to be determined. A resolution to authorize insurance of general obligation limited tax bond series 2022 in an amount not to exceed $700,000. Proposed 10-year bond or proposed 15-year bond.
I need somebody to call on me.
Mr. Manager, would you like to talk to us about this?
Yes.
So I understand this is probably just a little confusing. So what we're talking about here is the West Street project. 18 to 24 months ago, the council approved of staff spending up to $700,000 on behalf of the city as part of the $872,000 grant that we got from the EDA for the development of the West Street Business Park. And we did that with the understanding that at some point we would bond for the total amount because we didn't want to take that amount out of the general fund. The idea was to pay ourselves back of the bond from the land sale of the property that the city owns out there. And we fully intend with the amount of acreage to be able to do that. So I don't think that's an issue. What we're doing here is saying we'd like to bond for a price for an amount not to exceed $700,000 because that was your previous approval.
Mhm.
But I don't think we're going to actually need that much money. Now, again, I hate to use the word expedited, but we're getting towards spring.
Yes.
Yeah, we do still have a couple of they're minor issues, but they could be a decent amount of money. Ms. Falcon, what do you think the estimate is on the gas and electric? 50-ish thousand? So we're still waiting to hear about $50,000 in expenses on the natural gas lines and the electricity lines, which is why we're not ready to ask for a final number today.
Mhm.
But we also don't want to wait until next month to go out to the bond market to get this money.
Mhm.
We're basically asking is for you to trust staff to put together the very final number, get the bond in that amount, less than $700,000, and be able to get that money to kind of execute the EDA grant.
Do I understand that you would like the motion to be allowing staff to have the discretion of a 10 or a 15-year bond depending upon interest rates, or do you want us to choose one of them?
I'd be comfortable recommending the 10-year amount.
Okay.
There is a significant amount of interest difference there.
Sure.
I should clarify, this language comes directly from our bond attorney.
Right,
And the proposed 10-year bond information, we always like to give options.
right.
But for the amount of extra interest that would be paid in 15 years versus 10 years, because really, we're hoping to sell everything off within 3 or 4 years
Right, and then pay it back.
and just pay it back. So the interest amount on 10 years is $50-ish thousand. I think the amount on 15 years is like $150,000.
Please note that Ms. Hamel has arrived. We appreciate you being here.
I
You
heard
were
you
just,
guys on Zoom the whole time, but yeah.
we saw you. You're good. And, take a hot second and breathe.
Thank you.
You're good.
Arrived at 7:39. Thank you.
Just a reminder, when we put the bond out for the fire station, we had a similar discussion. And I think Ms. Nixon was one of the large advocates for going for the shorter amount of time, even though because of the interest.
That wasn't a bond, that was a millage.
A millage.
Well,
But yes,
It's, the interest is, it's
Yes.
the
similar
same,
concept.
Yeah.
same concept on the idea of you pay more upfront, but you pay a lot less with interest.
Are we still getting as much interest in buyers for that property as we were in the past?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the main businesses that wanted to purchase out there, they've unfortunately moved on because the project took longer. with the pandemic. But reasonably cheap industrial land with utilities anywhere near Grand Rapids in the 131, I think is going to sell like hotcakes.
I think you're not wrong.
I do have a question.
Please.
So it was my understanding that the city cannot sell property at a profit. We're not in the real estate market. So this comes from something a while ago. But if we were to sell that property to pay ourselves back, could we sell it at a price that also paid back that interest?
I guess I'm not aware of anything that says we can't sell the land for profit.
Oh,
We have to sell it under the EDA grant at market rate.
oh,
We can't give.
It was
Okay.
it was the DDA taking it from the county for back taxes piece that we couldn't sell it for more than what because it was coming under the auspices of the DDA. I want to
Okay.
say, we were specifically told this. This was
Mm-hmm.
2 city managers ago.
yes.
In fact, I mean, I think we're going to make a profit on this.
Okay,
We could then reinvest in something else.
okay.
As long as it's a city.
Well, and if the
As long as we
grant
invest in the city.
specifically says you
How
must,
would we invest in anything else?
then.
Yeah, I mean,
we
I don't know
shall.
what else we would invest in that
I'm
isn't
sorry.
the city.
When I say reinvest, I mean like a DPW garage.
Right.
or a
Into the
Right.
city, yeah. Uh-huh.
New city hall.
I had to throw that in.
Have it at Hilltop.
We could have it at Hilltop.
So much glare. Okay.
That would be one solution for maintaining Hilltop. All right, so I have it. So am I looking at a motion that would give me the 10-year bond?
So that would be the staff's recommendation.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
So I would make a motion to approve resolution 2022 XS+1, a resolution to authorize
Looks like you're about to-
issuance of a general obligation limited tax bond in an amount not to exceed $700,000 for a 10-year bond.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I will do a roll call vote. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Ms. Hamel,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And Mayor Conley votes yes. All right, we are just moving on stuff tonight. Big stuff, moving on big stuff, things that we've been working on for quite a while. Item E, motion to approve the Easter Extravaganza community event on April 16th, 2022. I just saw this actually as an event on Facebook at City Impact. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve of the Easter Extravaganza Community Event for April 16th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Womack?
I was just thinking I've got a minute and a half before I lose my bet of how quick this meeting would go. So this event has been put on previously in the heart of Cedar Springs. It was wildly popular. We had significant traffic problems, 'cause there's not nearly as much parking up there as there is in Morley Park.
Right.
And these same people have also put on the pumpkin giveaway
Right.
in Morley Park, which worked out really well. They put on lots of events for the community. They do a good job, but under the policy that we currently have, I just didn't have authority to approve of this event because it's not the same event in the same place.
Right.
Other than that, it's otherwise fairly well done.
Any other discussion?
I think this would be an excellent time to discuss or just say this would be a good place or time to have event in progress signs somewhere along Main Street or in that area for the safety of the folks that are at that event. And I just talked to Sergeant about that, and we're gonna try to work on that so that folks driving through town are aware that there's gonna be kids and people and all kinds of stuff going on.
Does the
Near
county
Main
sheriff
Street.
have signs for that say event in progress or? Okay,
Madam Mayor, I think this is something that the city would purchase. and
Okay.
Be able to, I don't know what you call it, but the little hangers that you kind of put over a door, we put them on our barricades. I don't think we have any objections to that. But I think, and Ms. Powell and I discussed this previously, at least my idea was, we're talking about events that occur kind of in the street, or near the street. I guess Morley Park, in my opinion, doesn't have that much road access.
Right.
right.
If we're talking about partially for safety and partially for promoting an event that's ongoing,
Safety.
okay, I could see an argument for that.
Well, and once we have signs, then,
Yeah, so it would be a minor cost to purchase them, but I'm not opposed to having them or using them.
okay. Do we need a motion? Is that within your scope? They would be less than the amount of
Yeah,
money you're,
I don't think I need a motion.
okay. All right, then I will take a roll call vote on this. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Ms. Hamel,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And Mayor Conley votes yes. Hooray for an Easter extravaganza. Moving on to discussion items. This is the thing we've been working on for a while. We'll keep talking about it. Sidewalk policy.
Oh my God.
Sidewalk initial volunteer policy.
It's not marijuana.
This is true. This is true. Although that still snuck its way into our agenda tonight.
I do have a comment on this one.
Sure,
If you're looking for comment.
I am.
I can wait my
Waiting.
turn.
No, go
When
right
I'm
ahead.
talking about it.
Ms. Hamel, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I was hoping that you weren't gonna get to this part when I was still in the car, but I think that the way that we should do it is we should start with a high discount first and then have it go lower for people who aren't actually taking advantage of it. But I think that we should have a time frame and tell people you have until June 31st to get 75% off. You have until whatever, August 31st to get 60%, so that we're lowering it, but it incentivizes people to volunteer at first. Because I, for one, would volunteer first and be pretty annoyed that if I would have waited, I could have gotten a better deal. And I think that's a flip-flop way to do it.
If just one minor thing,
Mhm.
$25,000 is not going to go that far.
Mhm.
We're not talking about from July to August. We're talking
Oh,
about from.
I
this year
literally,
to
I'm
next
just,
year.
yep, I'm just
was
throwing,
gonna
I
say-
was just throwing that out there as
I-
like, to give a time frame. If it's 7 days to volunteer and put your name on the list to get this deal, then we move back because we want to give people the carrot first. And then the stick is that, well, you missed all your discounts. You could have,
I feel like we're
gotten.
talking more about like the first 10 people more than time frame. Am I
yeah,
right?
whatever,
Now, but I mean,
whatever
in the
is or however
future,
you do it. But I
would
think we should
change.
go percentage, the highest thing we're gonna give,
Yeah.
and then go lower for the people who didn't volunteer.
Okay, Ms. Nixon?
So if we're talking about $25,000 and the first 10 people, so even if we gave them each $2,500, that's not gonna do
No.
their sidewalk in front of their house. And so if we
Well,
go,
that's gonna do half of it.
but,
Mine was $4,000.
okay, but if we go with a high percentage first, that money's gonna be gone. I mean, really fast. And
Sure.
I'm not sure that we should change the percentage at all unless.
I'd be fine with not changing the percentage at all. I'm just saying that if we're gonna give more of a percentage, it should be to the people who volunteered first. Because why are we gonna be struggling bending somebody's arm to take care of these sidewalks, which we want?
Yeah.
And then be like, because you didn't volunteer, because you stuck your foot in the ground and we're like,
Now you
no,
get
I'm
more
not
off.
doing my sidewalk. Now you get an extra $1,000 off of your neighbor who
Yeah,
said
there's
that
no
they
clearance
wanted to
sale
do
on
it.
sidewalks.
first.
no.
I don't think that's fair at all. So I'd be fine with the flat, that's fine. I'd be fine with flat, but if we're gonna go up or down, we should be going down.
And the way we used to do it a really long time ago was that we had a list of people that wanted it. And as we got funding into our sidewalk fund, we would call them and say, all right, your name is up on the list.
Mhm.
And
And I'd be fine with doing that, just one straight and then going through the list. And once we get done, when we're done with our funding, then the stick part is we're done with our funding. You
right.
should have been on the list.
Well, we just
to
kept,
get a
and then the
discount
next
off,
year
which
there
would
would be
be
another
fine.
list.
Yeah,
and
which
we would
is
just
fine.
keep rotating through.
So Madam Mayor, that's essentially what I'm proposing in the second part. I'm not sure, Ms. Hamel, if you were talking about the first or second part.
Yeah, just just your proposal to do the opposite way of starting with a low one in case we want to get higher. I don't agree with that part.
That's
that last part.
entirely a council philosophy issue.
Mhm.
But Madam Mayor, to your point, you know, the sidewalk policy really to address all concerns is going to be complicated.
Yeah.
But I think the carrot issue, the creating the list of people who want to be part of it, we can start that this year.
Yeah.
It's a very basic policy.
Right.
So
We just have to decide a percentage.
pretty much.
Yeah, and I'd be fine with a flat percentage also.
This, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't
Earlier,
interrupt.
or earlier.
I want to be, I think that what's going to happen is over the years, we're probably going to be able to build up a little bit more in our sidewalk fund.
Hopefully.
That's what I'm thinking. And if we continue to grow and everything. But maybe our percentage, and I can't find the percentage in here. You know, if we only have 25,000, maybe we have to start with a smaller percentage first to, not use up all our sidewalk funds. And, but keep it at that percentage. I wouldn't give the people on the tail end the better percentage. I agree with you. But maybe we don't start off, what was your I missed, I
50?
can't find it. Yeah.
I think it's 50.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know we want to give them a carrot, but if we don't have it tons, whatever we decide that we're going to put in our budget, if we don't have a lot of money to start off with, we might not want to offer that as big of a chunk of a percentage to start off. We might want to see how it goes, maybe the first couple of years and then, you know, decide to change
When it was offered, when
Yeah.
it was that way, there would still not be more than 5 or 10 a year. Cause it's a chunk of money
Yeah.
that you have to come up with on the other half.
And not to be Debbie Downer or anything, but we're also proposing a very significant sidewalk project, CDBG grant.
Mhm.
Match on that is $125,000. So as much as I'd like to get started on this project this year, and we are putting $25,000 in the budget for it, might also want to slide that money straight into the CDBG grant and knock that down from 125 to 100. But
Oh, we'll get that, but we have to match it. So we'll get 250 total.
we're gonna
I
get
mean,
500 or
We're
so.
putting in a 25% match.
oh, okay.
But you get more points, the more
You put it.
money we put in, so.
So yeah, we should do that for sure.
So would it be better then to have the motion be, oh, we don't have motions, this is discussion, to put our sidewalk funding into that grant this year?
I think that would be a later date question. But right now, really what I'm looking for is we've got this really complicated thing that it's gonna take us months to get through.
Mhm.
We got this fairly simple thing that we have the money for, and we could get started on July 1 if we wanted to. Or heck, even before that, just start taking names. I mean, really, 25,000 is all we could come up with.
We did a thing in the past, if you remember, Amy Hall, coming and getting a petition to get everybody on the block to do it. Maybe not, because you're on the other side of Fifth Street. That if you can get all of your neighbors in a contiguous area, that they would kick up the percentage slightly, like it was an extra 5%
Yep.
if you had
Yeah.
4 in a row. Because then it's cheaper.
But I don't, Okay, can you clarify this for me? Because
Madam Mayor, that is in my policy that I.
Yeah. But I'm saying as we're discussing it, that
Mhm.
isn't a piece that we talked about.
yeah. I agree.
So it would be maybe 50% with 55% if you have
5 or more people. in
5
one
or more
stretch.
people in a stretch.
I think I proposed 60% if at least one of your neighbors agrees. But again, this is all council decision.
I would, if
Yeah,
you
I'm
still
fine with
want to
that.
know, I would like to at least start,
Mhm.
you know.
Well,
I agree.
okay, so I don't know about that because isn't it if we put the 25,000, we're actually like getting more money back though, right? For the 25,
We're talking about two different things.
okay.
Mhm.
So this is a separate standalone sidewalk local proposal with $25,000 as its budget.
Correct.
We'd go to the citizens and say, if you would like to pay for 50% of your own sidewalks,
Mhm.
we will pay the other 50% out of the 25,000.
Yep.
We have a separate project, which we haven't brought to council yet, which is a CDBG grant, where we have to pay 125,000 to get about 500,000. That would just basically be free sidewalks,
Yeah,
similar to what we
so,
did. over
but
here.
do we have funding for the 125? That's what I'm saying, because if we put the 25 towards it, that's getting us a lot more money than
We-
just a couple of sidewalks.
We do.
Okay, all right, that's, all right, I'll stand down.
No, that, I mean.
No,
that
that's a
wa-
legitimate
Because I don't want to spend that
No,
money and
you're
then be
right.
like, well, I
It's a
guess we're gonna
legitimate
lose
question.
$150,000.
But just to clarify, because we're gonna go
Yeah.
through the budget here in another week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever. On on St. Patrick's Day.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I have wrestled back and forth with this one, and I was one of those that was a proponent of if they were willing to kick in, that they should get something in return for it. Part of what I've been thinking about is the haves and have-nots,
Mhm.
okay? You will have neighborhoods where people cannot afford to kick in anything. You're gonna say, sorry, you're gonna have to wait later to get yours taken care of. Because these people are saying, yes, we will give you monies to get more done in our neighborhood. And our sidewalks may not need to be repaired or replaced as much as those in the have-nots. So it's just something else to think about.
I would advocate that any of our sidewalks that are older, and as a person who's done their sidewalks, they're not ADA compliant. The old sidewalks are not wide enough. So whether or not they're cracked apart and whether or not, you have to mow them. I remember Amy Hawes saying, who has to mow their sidewalk? Whether or not they're in that state, they're just not wide enough.
Yeah.
So at that point, they need to be done. I mean, I don't even see it as like a level of needing to be done. Like they're not walkable if they're not wide enough.
But he's saying somebody who couldn't afford to put in the $2,000 is now gonna have to put $4,000 because they couldn't apply for the grant because they don't have $2,000. So
Nice.
they're just gonna have to wait.
For what it's worth, part of, I think, what the next portion of the sidewalk policy is going to be is a term of years where you could have that apportioned over 5 years instead of one.
Right.
But I mean, if you own a house, part of ownership of a house is maintenance of the sidewalk.
Mhm.
That's written into the law. So I think what we're trying to do here is a benefit to the community. But we also
Oh, for
want to
sure.
have safe sidewalks. This is a full
Mhm.
community effort.
Yep.
And while I'd like everybody to be rich, I recognize that not everybody is.
Mhm.
But I
You're
also
up when
don't
he's
think,
done.
I also don't think that it's fair to say, well, just because, you might not have as much money as your neighbor, then you don't have to have safe sidewalks in
Yeah,
front of your house.
that's true.
Before when we got the CBD grant, they like helped us pick out where we were gonna do it, right? Like they wanted us, the worst areas, they were,
Partially, so.
so that would
Some of it
help.
was in front of
That
the
type
library,
of thing grant
wasn't it?
kind of helped with different area.
Yep.
Mm.
So it's based on.
Thinking about the old library and the accessibility piece of it.
Yeah, no, these are decided by what the house values of the area that's.
Right.
There's a formula that they.
So that's gonna help in certain,
Yeah, but really, the routes are mostly chosen by staff in consultation with the engineers. And of course, the things that we look at are, amongst other things, creating connectivity between existing sidewalk
Mhm.
and important assets of the city. In addition to finding the worst concrete, and getting rid of that as well.
So that is starting to work on areas that needed the more, so when we're talking about.
And connecting to
errors,
things
yeah.
like the library, city
So,
hall,
Yeah, so
school.
I think we've sent the map to you guys for the CDBG grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the main things we're proposing is to extend sidewalk on Fifth Street from 17 Mile all the way to Pine Street. The problem there is we need a pedestrian bridge, which is going to cost $200,000. But so it's a two-parter,
Where do you need that?
Across the creek,
Cherry and Fifth. But
next to your mom.
the other grant is, I think, partially to run from the White Pine Trail over to Riggle Park. Because the White Pine Trail is an artery of the city.
Mhm.
So if you can get there, now you can get to Riggle Park. And, fixing some of the other kind of cross.
It's the walkability connectivity piece.
Mhm. Oh, and then the other question I was gonna ask, sorry. Are
No, don't
you,
apologize.
are you then saying, okay, we're gonna give you this percentage if you decide to get your sidewalks done? Are you then gonna say this area of town? Like, if there is a bad area of town, are we gonna like kind of say, we'd like to do sidewalks in this area of town? And then you're not doing like a pavement, one house here, one house on that side of town, you're still trying to connect it or no?
Well, so, I mean, obviously this is a voluntary thing first. So we can't force people to be, part of the list.
And if you limit it, in my experience, if you say, we would like volunteers only in this quarter,
Mhm.
that has a neighbor that would like to come along
Then
with
it's looking
you.
like we're,
Well,
Then it's,
Yeah.
well, but then it starts to get to be like, you just don't have the people sign up to do it.
but you're not wrong. What I think staff would propose is we'll take the names and then we'll identify how it would work best, with the names that we have. I mean, first of all, how many properties can we do each year?
Mhm.
But also, I think part of the limitations I have listed here is we don't want to do we don't want to install replacement sidewalk where it's already in good shape, where it's already 5 feet wide, where it already has ADA, I don't know what those strips are called, the ADA strips. We don't want to replace good sidewalks.
right.
So if you don't have bad sidewalks, we don't want to replace your sidewalk.
So if I'm hearing the council correctly, as we're having this discussion item, the council feels that it's a good idea to have a sidewalk policy, that we would take a list of volunteers. Are we feeling comfortable with the idea of a 50% match? Up to 60% if you bring along a buddy? And that we would have a list and then have the staff check off the list. We wouldn't necessarily go the very first person that signs up. We would go with where does it need it the most, but within the list until our funding runs out. And each year we add some more funding to it. Does that sound like a?
So Madam Mayor, if I might, there are two policies. There's the complicated one and the easy one. What I'm looking for, I guess, right now or between now and the next meeting is any comments about how things could be changed on that, and then I'll bring that back for approval at the next meeting.
Okay, so I'll go down the list and say, Ms. Powell.
It's coming around. It's complicated, but I think we're getting a handle on
Any
it.
specific things that you would like to see different coming back to us next month?
Not at this point.
Okay, and if you do, you'll tell the manager?
Jointly.
Okay,
She knows my number.
I would guess. I would guess. Okay, Ms. Atchison?
Did,
Would you like me to come back to you?
well, I'd like to do a little bit more of investigation a little bit and then can I get back to Mike on my?
Of course,
Okay,
of course.
thank you.
Ms. Nixon?
I would like it to be a flat percentage unless you're able to bring along a couple neighbors, which makes it more cost effective for all of us. And I'm glad.
Also binds community together.
Sure. And then I think to Mr. Gross's point, being able to amateurize it over a few years, you're correct that it's expensive to be poor. It is. So,
No question.
so in order to give them that opportunity to not just be told at some point, hey, now you're gonna fix your sidewalks and you're not gonna have. Your vote. So I like that part of the policy. I guess we'll put in the money that we can, starting with the 25,000, and we'll continue on.
And it's
every year that we
3-year
can.
amortization. Is that what we're looking at, Miss?
So, I'm sorry. So right now, I'm not proposing any amortization. 'Cause
Ah.
I just want to get this started and then
Okay.
we'll start doing the more complicated stuff.
Okay.
Okay. But I
That
do
was
think
my
we want
question- one
some
of my
kind of an
questions.
amortization on the
Oh,
piece
yeah,
that they
that's
pay.
definitely part of the plan, just it's complicated.
Right.
Sure.
So, and I just want to say, Ms. Falcon, you had talked about the possibility of 3 years being relatively standard. Okay. So when people are trying to do math, they could look at, I'm gonna have to pay half over 3 years, divided up into my taxes.
And we'd provide those numbers.
Right, but I just, as people are thinking about it, that would be what you're looking at. So, okay, Ms. Hamel,
Yeah, I agree with everything that Ms. Nixon said.
Ms. Race,
I agree.
Mr. Gross?
Fine, I just want that considered.
Yeah, absolutely. This is important stuff, and a walkable community is really important.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that it's expensive. We've been trying to get sidewalks for how long, Ms. Powell?
As long as I've been here. Well, way before we
20
had
years.
this program going on,
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah, so this is important stuff. We appreciate the work, Ms. Falcon and Mr. Manager, Mr. Womack.
Of course, I mean, not to belabor the point, but this is one of the things 5.5 years ago when you hired me, was
Right.
one of your priorities.
Yeah,
The problem was we didn't have the money.
right,
So now that we're getting the money,
right.
I think it's a good idea and good use of the funding.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that you've bubbled it back up to the top. Because we did have some other calamities that have happened with, water main breaks and, an assortment of things that had to be dealt with. So, all right, anyone else have any last thoughts on that before we move on? So moving on then to item in B, an ordinance to amend chapter 40, section 4. Section 4, am I reading that correctly? The dyslexic lady looking at Roman numerals. Division 2 to modify section 4446 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Cedar Springs entitled Walls and Fences, second reading.
So I will apologize. I was not here at this last meeting. I was attending via Disney World. So I couldn't strictly remember exactly what council's thoughts were on this. So it is not, a dire emergency that we pass it. I would like to have it in place for the spring because that's when people start putting fences up. And I think this is to a great benefit to the public.
Mhm.
The planning commission has worked on this, I believe, for 18 months.
Yeah, long time.
And I'd like to get it passed. I guess you could theoretically pass it now if you wanted to, but I wanted to make sure I brought it back for discussion just in case I missed anything.
This is so that they can have fences on corners and corner lots and how we fit that piece of it in.
All sorts of things that are to the benefit of the community.
Where you lost me was on page 78, that drawing.
Yeah.
I was under the impression we were trying to eliminate people forced into having 2 front yards, where their front yard was where their address was.
Sure. So, yeah, the front yard thing is part of the ordinances in multiple places.
Mhm.
So I'm not willing, and I don't think it's necessary to eliminate that definition. Instead, what the ordinance does is creates a new definition for fence purposes only.
Okay.
I think it's called secondary or alternative front yard.
Yes.
So we're acknowledging it's still your front yard, but that within the ordinance, the fence ordinance, you would then be allowed to extend a 6-foot-tall privacy fence into that secondary or alternative front yard.
Okay, got it.
And the idea is that a front yard is anything that faces a street.
Basically, yeah. Or right away.
Those of us who've lived on corners.
Yeah, and the reason being is some folks wanted to have a privacy fence in their backyard, which legally they couldn't because it was technically it was their front yard. So,
Been there.
yeah, yeah. So that was what we were trying to manage, that,
Right.
yes, indeed, just because you got road on two sides doesn't mean you don't have a backyard.
It also was simply updating an ordinance that was 40 years old.
Yeah.
There were complications even with my neighbor across, because I live on a corner, my neighbor across the street actually at one point had 2 addresses,
Oh, yeah.
which is sort of complicated.
Suppose it depends on what mail you want to keep.
Right, which mail, can the bills go to the?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a nice way of maintaining the understanding that you live, that yard is on a street, but providing access to fencing for enclosing for privacy, to provide people who live on corners of backyards.
Yes.
So any other thoughts on that?
Not at this time. Should we
Okay.
bump it over to,
Do you want to vote,
Actions
do you want to vote on it? I need a motion to move it I need a motion to
Scott.
make it as an action.
Before we do that, Madam Clerk, do you feel it's necessary to move items to action and then vote on them? Or do you think they can simply vote on it right now as an action item?
You can simply make the motion
Okay,
and you do not have to move it to action to do that.
okay.
I did have one comment though. I believe the numbers here are on the old codification. So we would need to revise
That is
that.
true. We've been working on
Okay.
it for so long
we should wait.
that it has been recodified.
Well, do we have do we know the number for the new codification?
We do, but I don't know offhand.
Okay,
It's completed, but I don't have that number
I'm not sure
offhand.
it's strictly necessary because recodification doesn't,
XX plus 2.
it doesn't actually change the law at all.
Okay,
So we could just recodify it with the appropriate numbers.
all right. So what's the will of the council?
Do we have to vote to move it to action, or can we
No.
No,
You can just make a motion.
make a motion to move it to, action?
You can just make a
So
motion
I'd
to,
like to make a motion to approve the newly written ordinance for the walls and the fences.
Second.
any other discussion? Do you need anything else specific to that, Ms. Johnson?
Perhaps authorization to
To
have staff
modify.
recodify the.
To
numbers.
modify the numbers of the ordinance.
Okay, I would amend my motion to.
I would amend my second.
Okay, that give you what you need? Okay, any other discussion? All right, then I'll take a roll call. Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Ms. Hamel,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon.
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Race.
Yes.
And Mayor Conley votes yes. Hooray. Our people we've been doing this for a really long time. And props to the Planning Commission who put in a tremendous amount of work on that. All right, item C, non-conforming multifamily dwellings in R1 zoning district, which has been of much discussion
Consternation.
and consternation.
That's an excellent word, Councilor Nixon.
Yes, that is a good word for it. So, Mr. Manager,
Yes, so.
and I just would like to clarify, if you haven't watched the planning commission meeting from Tuesday night, that there was much discussion about this at that. So hop into that.
So, I'm sure that several of the members of the audience are here for this. So unfortunately, we've identified over the last couple of years, a number of homes that appear to have been originally single-family homes have been converted into multi-family homes. The zoning district that these homes are located within are designated R1 single-family residential. Multifamily homes are not a permitted use in that zoning district. So we have hard evidence to show that since at least 1982, that has been the case, which, God help me, has now been 40 years. Now, I suspect very strongly that before that time, it was also R1 single-family residential. I just don't have the hard evidence that we do post 82. That's besides the point. The point is also that for these homes that have been converted, we have no evidence to show that they ever received appropriate or legal zoning approval to make the change from single-family residential to multifamily. Now, I'm sure that the argument from the landlords would be that, well, the city has been inspecting and registering these as rentals, but that is not a zoning argument. That is a safety of the people living within the home argument, which I'm happy to wear, because we're doing that to keep the people living in the home safe. But I don't think that gives them legal approval for the use. So I am unfortunately stuck in the position of following the law, as inconvenient as it can be sometimes. And I think the law says that without the proof that these received approval, they are considered illegal. And you cannot ever make an illegal use a permitted legal use if it was illegal at the inception. Now, of course, I wasn't here 40 plus years ago. Well, no, I was here 40 years ago. Wasn't here 41 years ago. I don't know what happened. I wasn't around, but there's no evidence to show one way or the other. So it's obviously a pickle. We've been trying to resolve this for a long time, but I need policy direction from the council. I'm ready and willing to start taking these landlords to court and dealing with it there. But there might be some alternative that council might come up with that might resolve this issue.
Okay. And we have a memo from our code enforcement person.
What page is that?
Is page,
Was it 8C?
yes.
Okay, so that is page
8C and then-
89.
Yes.
That's what?
89.
89.
I must
Already
have-
there.
I was-
So was I. Boom.
And one of my concerns was, as we head into this,
Yeah, that's not the code enforcement.
and my understanding is this was part of the conversation at the planning commission the other night, is even if we take aside the dividing up piece of it, they need to have a certain amount of square footage to be a residence. And they need to have, bedrooms need to be a certain size
And have windows.
and have windows and egress. You might recall there was a business that wanted to put a sleeping facility in a basement.
Oh, yeah, no.
Do you remember? And we said, that's a hard no,
Mhm.
like you're not, and this one was actually for like elderly people. And we said, you're not gonna put elderly people in a basement without a window for bedrooms. It's just not safe.
It's state law.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so
So-
we can actually enforce the window egress issue.
Right, but I'm just saying there's a whole series of these kind of things that these codes exist for a reason. We talk about things like why there should not be water heaters in bedrooms. And why bedrooms need to be a certain size, and why we're not going to send our fire department into basements to
Yeah.
fish people out of bedrooms. Right? So I mean, not that it probably doesn't happen, but so that's part of what when the planning commission was diving into this, there was a piece of the dividing up the house, but then there's the piece and whether or not they had the licensure and the whatever to do that. But then did they even divide it up in a way that meets those requirements?
But
So
those requirements already exist, correct?
yes,
So to me, that's all irrelevant.
right.
And
So, like,
the
you either
rentals.
meet them or you don't, and if you don't, then you don't get.
Then the rest
get
of
it
this to me is like
inspected.
not even a conversation.
Yeah.
Like whether or not you had a permit to do this, if you
Right.
divided it in a way that isn't safe and
Yep,
doesn't meet
and you
codes.
can't fix it like now.
Right, okay. Ms. Atchison.
With the rental inspections, are they checking those things? Like
So-
to make sure the insides,
This was one of
Right.
the questions that we,
Yeah.
Sure. So the rental inspector, I mean, look, he goes through dozens and dozens of rentals every year up here.
Mhm.
I think it would be a fair statement to say that the first pass, he's looking for water heaters in children's bedrooms, closets. He's looking for sewer pipe work that's made out of duct tape, which we have found.
Is there running water?
Is there running water? The crazy stuff that we have found in rentals in this community, which is just absolutely crazy. That is, I think, what he looked for the first pass. But now we've been doing this for a couple of years and we've hopefully eliminated most of those issues. I will admit, I don't think he was measuring the bedrooms to make sure that they met the IPMC requirements unless they were quite literally closets that we have found people sleeping in. I think the IPMC requires that a bedroom be a minimum of 7 feet by 10 feet. At least part of what I'm proposing is that if we were to allow these multifamily illegal conversions to be continued and maybe give them legal nonconformity.
Yeah, legal non-conforming is what the manager and I have talked about.
Is that they would have to have inspection that proved that all their bedrooms and living rooms, et cetera, meet the minimum requirements.
And that
1000%.
overall, there's a square footage for a single person rental, for a 2-person rental, for a 3-4-person rental. There's in addition to like bedrooms have to be a certain size, the entire living space has to be a certain size. So that, you can't put a family of 4 in 50 square feet.
Which has to be met in the other parts of
Yeah,
town
but
that
that-
allow
Right.
That
the rental.
Any rental, we just recently met with the apartment complex that would like to build here. And the manager and I and Darla Falcon and absolutely, like they have to, we're not putting people in shoeboxes. It's just not okay.
I think our thing here is the rental homes are in the R1 district, which, as we read in that one city city council minutes, that somewhere in 1982, they wanted to change the R1 to R2 because they wanted more apartments over there. I can remember there was a big brouhaha about that. And the people that lived in the R1 said no more apartments because the roads,
Right,
all that
parking.
kind of stuff. So they didn't change it and they kept it at R1. Well, there already was apartments there, and the ones that are there, I think we should accommodate as long as they're within their rental inspections are good. They've got going with they're supposed to have for their renters, and if it's not, it's not. And I think if it does change its hands and it does get sold, that property must be in guidance for an apartment for 2 or 3 or 4. And if it's not, then that seller or that buyer have to make it that way, or it's just non-conforming, period.
That's the part that we're talking about.
Right.
That if we might try to give them some space.
Yes. and
Where we
time.
make this legal non-conforming
Uh-huh.
if the apartments meet all of these requirements on space,
Right,
parking, sidewalks,
right.
driveways, etc., that we would require from any rental place.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, first of all, I think that the manager was absolutely correct to enforce the law as it exists, which is his job. But I wonder, are these requirements that we're setting out? I'm glad that we're having a halfway point where we can say, all right, we understand that this might have been like this for a long time, but we require this safety for our residents. So rather than have to bulldoze your property, meet us here. Now, in 10 years, if this property owner were to sell their duplex or whatever, do we stay with these requirements? Or do those requirements change to whatever the requirement is at the time of sale?
And I think that's going to be part of the $1 million question. Our first piece that I think that we're dealing with is do we feel comfortable saying that you can be legal non-conforming if you meet the requirements for a rental as far as things like size of bedroom, size of square footage, safety of egress, parking, driveways, if you can bring it up to that, because some of them can. I mean, one of the folks who met with us the other night absolutely can. Some of them cannot.
Ms.
I-
Simpson, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
to interrupt. Thanks for the question. So it's kind of a complicated gray area we're talking about, but what would be proposed is to make them legal non-conforming. Certain parts of legal non-conforming can be continued indefinitely, regardless whether the code changes. So for example, 3-foot wide sidewalks, we don't change those every time that we change the law, right? Which is why we still have 3-foot sidewalks.
Sure.
But on the other hand, if we discover that putting a water heater in your child's closet tends to kill children, and that code changes tomorrow, we can and will enforce that. Now, I can't give you a full list of all those things.
There's safety.
So things that we are found at some point in the future to pose imminent danger.
And this is mostly based on state law, so.
Sure.
That's like the basement egress or the size of window egress.
Okay.
Could be building and fire code,
Sure.
things that we'd take a look at. The building may be fine. The bedroom may be big enough. Water heater, they may think is secure enough. If there's a fire code there that is violation, it's still a violation. So there are two different areas, the building code and the fire code, that could come into compliance with these. Having been on the fire department, along with Marty and the others, we've seen those places. And yes, there was a place in town where we had to go through a outside entrance to get into a bedroom that had about 4 different beds in there, if you remember the one I'm talking about. And they were using it as a bedroom. You know, in order for them to go to bed at night, they had to go outside, go through this outside door to go in the basement and stay in it. They have been here. That way, no way,
Right.
shape or form should be allowed.
And what we're saying is
And
we're
those-
not
and
going to
those
be
are the
okay with
things
that.
Yes, I would agree also that, like the city manager is saying, you could have a legal non-conforming, as long as it stays in that state and it does conform to the building code at the time that it was built and the fire codes. It could stay indefinitely.
Right.
Ms. Hamel?
Yeah, just going along with that. I'm not gonna risk the safety of families.
Right.
For the landlord. So any of these, like, that are not conforming, like, I almost don't even want to give them very much time to fix it. Like, if you can't fix it in 30 days, like, you're done. Because if it's that much of a renovation, like, no, thank you.
Well,
What I am trying to do is make it fair for people who have been treating people like people and not like just money farms and sticking all these people into these unsafe houses. If it's unsafe now, like, I literally have no interest in saving it whatsoever.
Well,
The
part of it,
people I want
part of it might
have
be
it
how much
be
it's
legal,
divided.
which is fine. But if it's that divided into so many things that you can't quickly convert it into a safe property, then you were doing so many things wrong that now I'm not on your side. I'm only on the side of people who, like this couple seemed to be, that they had
Sure.
this building and they wanted to provide safe and like healthy
Yeah.
living for people in Cedar Springs. I'm on that side. If we are going into these houses and seeing that they do not conform on all of these egress things, like all of these huge things, I don't really have anything to say more to you than you shouldn't be doing that, and we're done now.
I would like,
Listen.
well, I think Mr. Womack has
I'll
something.
say,
Okay, go ahead.
I love it when Ms. Hamel goes on a rant. but
Sorry, I'm just,
Just to draw you back just a little bit.
yes.
So, I mean, code enforcement and our rental inspector, when we go into houses that are dangerous,
Mhm.
We do enforce, all the safety provisions ASAP.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, I think we're in the process of condemning one home right now
Okay.
for that very reason. But I think most landlords are willing to, do the safety requirements. While there certainly have been, and we do continue to find safety problems. For the most part, landlords do want to follow those requirements. Part of what we're talking about here is not strictly safety requirements, but we do have other laws. For example, we have a law in the books that says all rentals must provide 64 square feet of outdoor storage per dwelling. And the reason behind that is because, you know, if you move in with your 3 children and you don't have garage or a shed or something, now your kids' bikes are either inside the house with you or
Mhm.
on the front lawn.
Yep.
And so to a certain extent, that's an aesthetics thing. It's also, I guess, a property safety thing, so your bikes don't get stolen.
Mhm.
I mean, sheds cost money. Landlords, by and large, don't want to spend the money to invest in their property.
Which that they all, I will give time for that. If it's only my, my opinion, I will give time for all of that. We just always keep on talking about the people who are stuffing people into like 4 bedrooms and one's outside. And I just wanted to say that I am not going to advocate for those landlords at all.
So can I quote
So-
you as not being in favor of like slavery and?
Yes, 1000%. Yes,
We're-
on the record.
We're all anti.
But any other like little things, I'm fine with giving them time to conform. And then if they don't conform, then too bad, you lost your chance.
So, I'm sorry, I don't keep them, you know,
No, it's fine.
it's not so much about time to conform. It's about an agreement to conform.
About willingness to
Eh,
conform.
But what is, I'm gonna give you a special legal nonconformity in hopes that sometime you're gonna conform. I don't like
Well,
that.
no, obviously we'll put a time frame on it.
Yeah, that's
but
what I'm saying. I want
we
a
don't
timeframe
give
on
you,
it.
we don't give you the legal non-conforming designation until you meet these
But
requirements.
wouldn't it have to be a hard timeline? Because when are they gonna do it then?
Well,
We would.
don't they
but
have to
we
be
would work
forced to
through
do
the
it?
City attorney's office to come up with the agreements, and then it would
Yeah.
have X number.
Yeah,
like, you can't
okay.
put a fence in because it's in the middle of winter, right? So
Okay.
We're very, very reasonable about that type of stuff.
Right.
But I agree, I want to get it done.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about those people. The people who want to sign the agreements and be good landlords, they're gonna
Will
the
do
stuff.
it. Yeah.
You know, I think the complication here are the landlords who are gonna thumb their nose at the city and say, no, we're not interested.
Well, then
We
I'm
don't
not
want-
interested.
We don't want to spend $50 to fix the whatever, and then we're gonna have to go to court.
And that's fine with me.
that he's trying to get a sense of the bright line for us.
Yeah.
And part of this also is quite a few of these places want to sell, or they want to get insurance as an apartment building or a triplex or whatever, and they don't actually have licensure that says that's
Then they
what
better
they are.
conform and do what we say.
Well, this is
To follow the laws then.
well, our initial looking at this goes, you never had a permit to do this, you just can't.
Yeah.
The answer is just no.
Yeah.
Which is what the people is we had with us here. And what we're trying to say is, here's a middle ground where we will say, we will give you permission to be a legal non-conforming if you meet the requirements
Exactly.
of an apartment.
Yeah, and I would say that those requirements better be all of this stuff and every single one of those laws on the books in our ordinance then. And then you can
Are you
get the-
getting some direction, Mr. Manager?
So, there are some minor issues, of course.
Of course.
It's a complicated thing. So one of the requirements under the ordinances, which, you know, is for new apartments generally.
Right, is parking.
I was gonna go with the 5,000 square feet issue.
Oh, sure.
So under the ordinances, it very specifically says any multifamily duplex, triplex, quadplex, whatever, must have property, the parcel, be 5,000 square feet per dwelling. The standard lot.
Yeah,
in the
we talked
city
about this.
is 8,700 square feet. Meaning-
Oh, that you can't have two.
You cannot even have two on a regular lot per that designation. Now, I think there's an argument to be made, and of course, this is council's decision, but certain spatial nonconformities, the size of a lot, that type of thing, I think those could be overlooked in exchange for more of the use nonconformities, which is what we're talking about, sheds and sidewalks and driveways. Because you can put a driveway pretty much on any piece of property.
Mhm.
You can have sidewalks on pretty much any piece of property. There is no physical way to add an additional
Piece of
4,000
dirt.
3,000 feet, yeah.
Yeah. And when the manager and I talked about this last week, one of the things we talked about was that it's the square footage inside the house
That
that
matters.
feels much
Mhm.
more important
Yeah.
per person, per bedroom, per kitchen. And the things like number of places to park,
Mhm.
right?
Or
Because
like the
heaven
storage.
knows we've had a million conversations about parking. And that's also a piece of what is really important for our fire department being able to get in to help people in the event that there's a fire, because coming from the outside to 4 people stacked in a room is not okay. So it's much more that than the actual square footage of the lot.
Additionally, in the vein of, I would not want to encourage more multifamily homes to pop up. I would like to see this be a time limited offer.
Yeah.
You come talk to us within X amount of time, or friend, you are
You're done.
out of luck.
Yeah,
And
if you
this is a
decide to divide your house 3 years from now, too bad.
Tough stuff.
Yeah.
This is a one-time olive branch to try to not kick people out of their house. And, you know, olive branch is some people who pay some property taxes
Yep.
and try to, yes, go ahead.
And I agree with that 100%. It has to be something that is existent at this time. There is no cutoff. You better come to us right now and let us know this is what is here. Don't come back in 6 months and say, well, geez, we have two homes in here. No, you come to us right now and you let us know this exists.
So if I could mention one thing.
Mm.
So at the meeting, at the planning commission meeting, one of the landlords indicated that, as you guys are discussing, that we should have a period where anybody who is currently doing this would have the option to come forward and announce themselves, whatever. But if we don't know about them, that means that they have not been partaking in the rental registration and inspection process. And I don't know if we want to reward that type of bad behavior.
Well, if you don't, if I may. Sure. Madam Mayor, sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
so
fine.
interrupting. You can tell me anytime to.
It's okay. I
I
try to run
totally-
a collaborative meeting.
I totally understand that, and that really annoys me because I like rules. But I feel like if you do anything else, they won't come forward because they'll be scared of that, which they should be, and they should be announcing themselves regardless, because clearly they don't care about their renters as people. But I feel like there's no good way to fix that at this point.
Well,
Like either we need to know about it now, and then going forward,
we can
it's
catch them.
fixed.
There are ways we do. catch
So, Mr. Manager, if I'm, again, as part of our conversation and as part of having went over the planning commission's lengthy conversation on this, I'm also of the position of, if you have not been getting your rental inspection inspected, you're not legally renting.
True.
So, you know, that's to me like a hard no.
So you're saying if they haven't been doing this, but how do we find out about them?
So what'll happen
Then-
is in a few years, some poor person is going to buy that house thinking it's an income property. They
Like,
will then be informed that it is indeed not. And they will have to deconvert it back to a single family home. I imagine there will be some very stern and terse discussions between the buyer and the seller, and hopefully lots of FOIA requests. But unfortunately, I can't solve that problem for them.
And really, that comes down to a real estate agent that should
Doing
be
their due
doing their job.
Mhm.
Because if it's not registered as a rental property,
Oh, I see.
you shouldn't
Okay, so
think
that
it's a
would be
rental
flagged
property
then?
when you buy it. If it's a house, when I bought my house, it was a house. It wasn't a rental property. And I knew it was a house. Like, that's what it said.
Okay, I'm fine with that then.
Can I ask a
Sure.
Because I just popped in my mind. What if you own a house and you rent a bedroom out to one person? Now, does that make you now all of a sudden a rental property?
I believe under the ordinances.
I
yeah,
think so.
As long as they're not a family member.
Yeah, if you're renting to your kid, that's a little
Oh, yeah.
different. If you're charging your 20-year-old kid $100 a month, that's, I don't think that's the same thing. Am I right?
No, I mean, the ordinance very specifically says, family members, it's not really renting. I mean, part of it is we're talking about a power struggle between a landlord and somebody who's renting from. So, I mean, do we want a situation where a landlord says, you know what? I see you're a poor person. I've got a closet you can sleep in. It'll be $250 a month. Do we want to be able to protect those people?
No.
I mean, the
The
people.
people that are renting.
That are renting, yes.
Oh, 1000%. Yes, but no, not the landlord.
Mhm.
So
Landlord.
Whether it's a bedroom or half of a house, I think the rule should remain the same.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So our goal is, in my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong, these homes that were built in the original R1 district and that were chopped up because they were huge homes from back in the day. Our goal is if they are non-conforming, legal non-conforming, they're up to our standards or the rental standards, that we are going to propose that they are legal. And if they want to sell them and a mortgage company says, we can mortgage it because it's legal non-conforming, because they won't do a non-conforming in R1 or anywhere else, that person could still get a mortgage. But I think the issue the other night was this guy's got cash. He doesn't have to get a mortgage, so we'll just sell it. Boom.
Just to be careful, let's not go into the mind of a mortgage company. I don't know what they would do, and that's entirely their policies. It used to be that they would happily mortgage a property, whether it was illegal, non-conforming, conforming, whatever.
It
But
gets into also all kinds of different, like, does this home go FFA? Does this home
Oh, yeah.
meet the requirements for Fannie? Having bought a house on a standard mortgage, having paid cash for a house, I can tell, like, you have to have it inspected by most mortgage companies, which, like, when we bought the house that we bought for my parents, we paid cash. It was not a requirement.
But that's what has happened. That's,
Right, but that's very different than this is a non-conforming rental that we're going to let you continue to rent out
It's a one-time gift.
because you can meet all of these requirements for a rental.
And in the past, you have been getting it checked, correct? We're adding that part in.
And of course, the most important part is we're creating a record of
You're
this.
registered
Yeah.
as a rental.
There is no records right now.
and it's on the deed.
Well, part of the agreement could be that we require they file something with their deed paperwork showing.
Mhm.
that they-
Yeah, I think that's gonna
Yeah,
need to
for
be a
sure.
requirement so that going forward, when it's sold, like the people who were here last month really got
Because there are
blindsided.
some good real estate agents and some bad real estate agents.
Yep.
And you might be thinking you're buying a 2-apartment house and find out it's
Not.
there's one in the basement, one in the attic too, so who knows? Should be on the deed, I would think, and to protect the homeowner.
Well, and I think we're gonna see this with some of these that are claimed to be triplexes that are not gonna be able to meet the space requirements, that are gonna have to become duplexes
Oh, well.
in order to meet. But I'm just saying, I think this is part of what we
Mhm.
Madam
need to
Mayor,
be,
I'd
yes,
like to be able to ask the city manager something.
please.
You have a very good, clear picture of what we're thinking here.
Yeah, I was just enjoying the conversation, honestly.
Well, and some of it we're just rehashing, and that's why if you know what we're looking at and you can put this together,
So may I make a recommendation to come back at a future meeting for approval? And then I'll start working with the city attorney's office and probably the rental inspector and code enforcement officer at that point to put the policy into action.
by all means.
Now, if I could just add one more thing. So what we're talking about today is single-family homes that have been, as far as we can tell.
In the R1.
In the R1 district, illegally converted into multifamily homes. Part of my frustration is there are some homes in the R1 district which have very clearly been purpose-built as multiplexes.
Right.
Multifamily homes. And I also don't have records of that.
Okay.
And this will be a policy discussion for another day, because I know we all want to get home. But I think the council, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think the council might have a different policy perspective on those. And I think we'll have to have some alternative solution for that situation. in
Yes and
comparison.
no. I don't think you're gonna see us move on the size of the bedroom or
Well, we
egress.
can't move on those.
Well, we
Those-
could,
I
but
don't
I
think
don't,
so.
but I don't think we're willing.
I think if they were purpose-built
Right.
as apartments, they probably met all code requirements.
And they're gonna
At the
also have to
time.
meet the things like sheds and
Well, and that-
driveways.
That would be a policy discussion, but I think there's two different conversations. I didn't want to muddy the point.
Sure.
But yeah, if council's satisfied at this point, I'll bring back a more of a recommendation for next.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think we need to look at them as two separate things of if they were purposefully built as a triplex, I mean, and or a duplex or a quad, there's one that's a quadplex, I think.
Several.
That are clearly built as a quadplex. I mean, that's what they are. It's again, if they meet the requirements for an apartment, for parking, for sidewalks, for space, for egress, for all of the things that they're supposed to meet, then yeah, that's a different conversation.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we leave it with the city manager and move on?
Okay, yes. Have we clarified for you?
So thank you.
Okay, let's move on. So then we are moving on to, yes, discussion item. Curb bump outs, D,
So if I may.
please, Mr. Manager.
So again, I apologize. I believe these were on the agenda last month, but I wasn't here and I don't remember exactly. But since that time, I've had discussion with the city engineer, both about the proposal that he had put together previously that you guys have seen. And I believe the proposal at the time was something like $40,000 per one side of the quadrant of an intersection. But if you look at that, a significant portion of that cost is brickwork. And I think it would be a fair statement that brickwork is a maintenance nightmare. And it would not be my recommendation. I don't think it would be Mr. LaRosa's recommendation that we go with brickwork for future streetscape. So I've asked Mr. DeWitt, the city engineer, to put together a different quote
Okay.
that would eliminate most of the brickwork and reduce the cost. I think the more important thing is that we have a reasonable expectation that this curb bump outs might be something we could slot into the 2023 Main Street reconstruction, which is obviously a grant funded project. So we might not have to pay for this, but maybe 20% out of pocket if we wait to 2023.
Let's do that. And we're talking, Mr. LaRose, are you there?
He's in trouble.
Because we talked about this from the perspective of snow removal.
Yep, so there are obviously some bad things, but my overarching concern is always going to be pedestrian
Safety.
and this strongly protects.
Yeah, he talked about where we should put them in perspective of snow removal.
Yep. So Maple Street's the obvious one. Either Ash or the Legion, the beach.
Beach.
So one on the north, one on the south. But I was thinking about the other day, and something I'm going to propose to the DDA is the intersection where the Kent Theater is.
Okay.
I'd like to see maybe a streetscape done in front of the Kent Theater to promote the theater more as part of the jewel of the downtown.
Sure.
By doing a curb bump out there, you're increasing the real estate that could be used for that streetscape. Just an idea, but those would be, I guess, my proposals for the future.
So we'd be talking about 3.
Did I miss something?
We're talking about 3.
Cherry, Ash, and Beach.
That, I guess, I'd propose at least 2 of those and maybe 3 as well.
On both sides or one side?
So this is again part of the conversation I've had with Mr. DeWitt. The $40,000 quote is for one
side. Yeah.
So either the south side or the north side. I don't think it's effective to only do one side. I think, especially with the problem we have with people passing on the right, I think you have to do it on all 4 quadrants to truly be safe. Which obviously means we're talking about $75,000-ish per quadrant intersection. Now, I
Oh,
think-
what if we were to do it on both sides on the quadrant for the 2 ends, but do it on the one side as the streetscape for the Kent Theater?
So that would obviously work and would reduce costs. And there are some tricks you can use to prevent people from passing on the right there.
Yeah.
Signage is one.
Right.
Markings is another. So that's possible, yeah.
So what does Kent County Road Commission say about this? Have we had any discussion
I-
with them?
I'm not entirely sure we need Kent County Road.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's our street.
We might need MDOT approval
Yeah, well, whoever.
because this is a 131 bypass,
Yeah,
but just things we haven't gotten around to yet.
okay.
because-
And not a lot of point in going and asking them if
Right,
if we were absolutely not going to do it.
right. We got a year to.
So what, I'm gonna just ask each of you, I'm gonna go down, what's your thoughts?
I would like some bump outs, but I really would like to see a hard picture, you know, a real, before we actually put it down to say yes.
We're not close. either.
Yeah, but you think you like the idea? Do you like the idea on both ends? How do you feel about?
I don't know till I see it drawn up, but I do want some bump outs to slow down this traffic.
And I know that has been one of your main,
Yeah, for downtown.
yeah. And is part of the DDA and, okay, Miss Atchison?
Same. I'm not wrapping my head around exactly what it looks like either. You know what I mean? But if it's gonna help with traffic and help with pedestrians, I'm all for it. It's just knowing how many we want and
Where?
and yeah, I can't, like I said, wrap my head around it too much yet.
Ms. Nixon?
So I was just trying to think how many semi trucks I see on Main Street, because Cherry is where we thought we were going to reroute.
Right, to make
trucks.
a truck route.
Right. So if we're going to make it a truck route, we can't do all four corners at Cherry. We would have to do just the north side, which would be Kent Theater.
Which might be kind of nice. It would make it a featured streetscape.
Yeah. So I would do,
Did you get a call?
nope, I would do Maple and
Beach?
no Cherry. The
Ash?
no, I just
Stop talking.
saying things. There's like-
She's the truck driver. We'll let her.
So
I know.
the south side of Maple and the north side of Cherry is where I would say do it, because that's our 2 points. And if they want to go down further, they can use the bridge. I don't know that we need one at Ash if we're doing it at Cherry and Maple.
Right.
Ms. Hamel?
Yeah, I'm all for safety in the downtown area and lots of kids are around and pedestrians and stuff. And we're adding a bunch of stuff like the overlay and whatever. So we want people down here so that we want them to survive being down here. So
Do you have thoughts about where these bump outs should be, what it should look like, or it's okay if you don't, but if you do,
my only thing is if we can use the grant money, but I want to see what, like, I want to know what the trade-off is.
well, the only
if
trade-off
we
is the
use-
time frame because we're putting it on we're doing Main Street.
Yeah, but I imagine we had other projects on Main Street that we would want to use the grant money for, right?
Those would
No.
be added onto the project.
Yeah,
And we'd get extra grant money?
I believe so.
because it's
And we wait
matching.
one more year. We've waited like 20, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like we should do it for free
Almost
then.
there, so it's-
It's not
Well, when
free.
Jerry Hall was the DPW director the last time
Or
we redid
20%
Main
or
Street.
whatever.
It's been a minute.
It's
Yeah,
been a
it's
minute.
a lot. It's a lot of money and that saves a lot.
When Linda Hunt was the mayor and they were doing it, we called it the $1 Million Mile.
They did.
I'm guessing it's
Yeah.
gonna be more than that now.
So then I propose to wait until 2020.
Yeah, so more just the I think we all agree with that. The question more is where should these bump outs go?
Oh.
And how
I'm
many
sorry,
of
make
them
a
should there
plan.
be?
We're Answering all the wrong questions. Okay, in front of Kent Theater, I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
And then after that, I guess I'm good with what Ms. Nixon said.
Ms. Race?
I remember having a conversation about having it, if it was on both sides, it brings the road out closer so pedestrians are walking less.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is important to have here and here so that you have that going. But again, I'd have to kind of see, as Ms. Powell said, where would be the best.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, could I add to that just briefly?
sure.
So for anybody who's not aware of what we're talking about, curb bump outs, excuse me, I ran out of water. Curb bump outs would do exactly what Ms. Race is indicating. you would extend the raised curled curbs out to the width of the parked cars on either side, which is about 9 feet. Main Street, the current crossing is about 45 feet. So you're taking 45 feet and subtracting 18 feet, which I think is 27.
Or in the case of if we only do one on the side of the Kent Theater, you're subtracting 9.
But so in addition to being significantly shorter distance that you're in the roadway, you are now putting a pedestrian out and visible outside of the cars that are blocking your vision.
Yep.
So that cars going up and down the street can see you. And narrowing the road naturally slows traffic. So there's a number of great benefits.
It also will encourage people to cross at those places. So you would have more like everybody go here.
Would that help out more by the Cedar Brewing?
Yeah, that's Maple.
Maple Street.
That's Maple.
Then I'm all for that.
So then potentially you could do a few streets, just 2.
Yeah, well, part of it is it costs so much money, but then part of it is, and this is what I wanted to hear from Mr. LaRose, he was talking about, you don't want more than a certain amount or you start having trouble with snow removal.
Right.
Is Mr. LaRose available? Okay. Yes.
This is pretty council, and I don't want to step out of place, but there is a curb bump out on the west side of the fire station on Second Street.
Oh, yes, yes.
Go take a look.
Yeah.
Snow's gone, so. Get the full effect.
So anything else, Mr. Rice?
No.
Mr. Gross?
The truck traffic was one of the things that was brought up that you watch the trucks right now, they're gonna take up the whole Main Street to try to get out of any of our side streets. And they do come out in more than one spot, so, but that was one of the things I just felt we need to take a look at, because if the bump out was there, it's now made it rougher, not only for them to get across, to get to make the turnout, but the trailer running over them. And don't want that to happen. We have enough of that up here at the corner.
Sergeant Probst, can you, like, as a safety perspective, do you have anything to?
One thing like the manager said, it puts the pedestrian out there with their physical the drivers. So
Do you have any specific thoughts about where they should be?
I like the north side of Maple, or the south side of Maple and the north side of Cherry. It gives the plows 2 blocks out of that area. In the middle.
So have them alternate,
South side of Maple and the north side of Cherry.
which is different than the 4 and 4 that you're talking about.
Well, I think a significant portion of this discussion would probably be helped by the engineers.
Right.
which I have a sit down with next week or 2 weeks.
And this is discussion, but I'm trying to get a feel for,
I guess my proposals are generally based on the businesses and where people tend to cross. Down here by the Legion, there's a lot of people who cross over because of the Legion. Here at City Hall, lots of people cross over because of City Hall. The theater, lots of people cross by the theater. Maple Street, part of Cedar Springs Brewing Company, etc.
sure.
There's a lot of places we could put them, but maybe start with 1 or 2 and then see how it goes.
Okay, Ms. Atchison?
That sounds good. I just wanted to make, would a bump out, then that car could come out further to see the traffic, correct? So I just want to make sure I'm thinking right, that it's not gonna make you not be able to pull out
Everybody goes,
even more.
everybody make a point of going and taking a look at the one at the
Yeah.
new fire
yeah. No,
station.
It's just, sometimes it's hard. to get
Right,
your
that's what
head
I'm saying.
around.
We should
Yeah.
all like make a point
Yeah.
of going to look at
It's
the
gonna-
one.
Yeah, I'll drive by it on my way home. But yeah, that is a really bad corner at that corner. And, yeah, I mean, that's probably a good idea. Do a couple and see how it goes and, then you're not spending all your money in one thing and then regret it later. So.
All right, any other questions on that? And I will say, Mr. Manager, did we get you some input?
Yep. So I have a meeting with the engineers coming up regarding the new neighborhood, and we'll discuss this issue as well.
Okay, anybody else have anything on that? So moving on, item E, an ordinance to amend chapter 32, article 3 sidewalks, division 2 construction and repair, section 101, through section 104 of the code of the ordinances for the city of Cedar Springs, the second reading. I feel like we talked about this
Yeah, we did.
Anybody have anything else? And again, I feel like the planning commission has put in a lot of heavy lifting on this. Our planning commission does so much work.
They are wonderful. Great guys.
They're the best.
Great group.
Okay, if I don't hear anything else, then yes, we're good.
Yep, I can bring it back to you guys for approval at the next meeting. I thought there was some discussion at this at the last meeting. I want to make sure we talked through the issues thoroughly. Also, Madam Mayor, Mr. LaRose apologizes and says he lost his internet.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
what, that's what Ms. Falcon said, and that I completely understand. That's fine. And the questions that we have don't need to be answered right this minute. It's a discussion item. All right, then moving on to the item F, Cedar Blitz Community Event Application for, is that supposed to be March 21st?
Nay.
May,
I
that's it.
apologize.
I got a mat and I wasn't sure what a mat was. For May 21st, 2022, tell me about Cedar Blitz Community Event Application.
So this is the bike race that is partially sponsored by the brewing company. It is, I think it's a fair statement to say this will probably be the second largest event we now have in the community. It is getting to be a big thing. As predicted, bike racers, they really like this type of stuff. They have money, they like to travel here for that purpose. The reason it's not up for any kind of approval is because, just like the Red Flannel Festival, we feel it's necessary to have a sit-down meeting with these guys, go over
Sure.
everything. I believe we had that scheduled for next week, Monday. So probably by your next meeting, we should be ready for approval.
Okay,
Awesome.
any questions?
This was called Cedar Blitz before. Okay.
I
just
feel like
the
it was
event-
called something else
The
too.
event
but-
was like some,
Cedar Blitz gravel race.
Yeah, it
that's
was
what it
called the
was.
gravel bike race
Yeah.
Someone
something.
was rather offended by
Gravel's-
gravel.
something, okay.
Yes, that's right.
I feel silly admitting this, but because there was pandemic time, I can't remember if this was held last year or the year before.
Oh, I thought it was
They held
last
it
year
last
because I
year.
recognize it and I wasn't
We
here.
were all
Unless
zooming.
I'm like thinking of something.
No,
that
we were all
doesn't exist.
zooming. It was in the
Yes.
middle of the pandemic.
It was.
Because there was a rather colorful person who joined us on Zoom who gave us their perspective on gravel.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
indeed.
Anyways, held before with very minor issues, but they're looking to expand and would like to obviously make it as safe as possible.
Yay.
Okay,
Awesome.
fabulous.
Generally, yay.
Anything else then? Moving on to item G, 2022 Cedar Springs Social District Plan Update.
So again, only for discussion purposes today because it's very much so a draft proposal. I did take this to the DDA and they generally were in favor of it. Basically, what this would do is it would expand our social district in two ways. First of all, the hours that it would be permitted. Last year, it was only permitted Wednesday nights, I believe, from 6 until 10, which coincided with the city's summer concert series. I think that was an unbridled success. We had virtually no issues.
I agree.
People were happy, businesses were happy. So part of what we're proposing here is that we allow that to occur on a daily basis now instead of just on Wednesdays. I think we still have to work on the hours. I think I put in there dusk. And as much as I believe that is a correct time, I don't think it's appropriate to have it change from day to day.
2 minutes every day?
So gotta work on that part of it. And then also, Mr. Ringler missed the last DDA meeting, so he didn't have his input. So I would like to have DDA more approval before I bring it back to you guys for approval. But I'd like any comments you have right now.
Any thoughts? I'm really happy with the social district. I'm glad we did it. Yes.
Who all does this benefit as far as businesses?
So there's only two businesses which have applied to the state to have their licenses, and that would be the Redbird and the CS Brewing Company.
So the eating and drinking is going to benefit too. How does this benefit the rest of the community?
It brings, they gotta walk by the businesses.
They
Are
get
those
to
businesses
take
allowed
their,
to walk in with their beer or other drink?
they get to take their drinks down to the concert.
Yeah, so they're not allowed to walk into. another
Exactly.
place, But
So,
the benefit has been, was last year, you can take your drink to the concert. Now, part of what the DD is also currently working on is a site plan for 17 North Main Street, which you guys would know is the empty lot north of the Chase Bank parking lot, which is city property. And last year, I believe we had some picnic tables out there for people to be able to do outdoor dining.
I saw some kids playing frisbee out there today.
Not the use I would have predicted on Main Street.
I happened to see people playing frisbee out there
I mean, it's just,
in the snow. It was
I
sort of
want to know
interesting.
how this is for lunchtime. How's this benefiting the community?
So we would have a picnic area across the street from Redbird. And of course, you could also go down to the Heart of Cedar Springs and picnic there as well if you'd wanted. Now, there aren't any picnic tables in the Heart of Cedar Springs.
Okay.
And I don't predict it would be something that was used terribly much throughout the week. But it's something that the businesses did request. So maybe the businesses could come in and give maybe their 2 cents a little bit more.
Those two businesses or DDA in general?
Either one of them, because of
Okay.
course, I'm simply doing the bidding of the DDA here.
I understand, Mike. I'm wanting to know how this is benefiting all of the businesses in town, or if we're benefiting a couple of businesses in town. So, okay.
Well, it's just like a clothing thing, like if the sidewalk sales, what does that benefit a brewing company? It's just different.
Well, what I would add,
But see, that's, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's when it could benefit everybody, okay? The parents could come and want to get a beer and get their food at brewing company, and then their kids could get their food somewhere else on the McDonald's on their way into town. And then mom and dad stopped at Cedar Brewing, and then they went to the park to have their little picnic because they could get a beer, but the other kids, they'd pick them up McDonald's, or they'd stop at one of the stores in town, do their little shopping in those little stores, and then go get their beer.
well,
You
and
know what I mean? That's
my experience from having attended the concerts, and I did not purchase any alcoholic beverages. But the people around us all were, and that it was quite a nice thing for the community. I'm not talking about necessarily the people. I mean, yes, it benefits these two businesses, but it benefited the overall community to be able to walk up, buy a beverage, and walk back carrying it while listening to the concert. That it was part of the community.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, it was sort of and nobody was stupid drunk. Nobody was obnoxious. I would advocate it benefited the community in being able to kind of have like community happy hour if they wanted to participate in it.
Without having to meet Sergeant Probst or any of his
Right.
compatriots.
And or having to hide their beer in a paper bag. I mean, it's that kind of piece of it, that, they don't have to sneak it in. It was I can have a beer and listen to the concert.
This has been going on for years.
Right,
We're
we
just
just-
finally jumping on the bandwagon. This is not new.
We're just making it not surreptitious. They don't have to sneak. So that's what I see as the benefit of the community. It also makes it so that our police are not in this thing of trying to figure out if they have it hidden in their paper bag, and if they're, I mean, they can have their drink in this capacity as long as you're not a jerk. Right? I mean, right?
All of our county parks have open house.
Right.
Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Right. You just can't on the White Pine Trail, right? Right, because it's the state park. And we haven't had a designation for that at our city park.
Technically, we don't allow alcohol in the city park.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We haven't had a designation saying that that's acceptable during certain times of year. So this social district for those events allows that to happen. So that then our police are not in a position of having to police people for having alcohol because they're not allowed. Does that make sense? When I'm trying to address Mr. Gross's question about who does this benefit? It benefits the community in the sense that they're able to legally engage in a behavior that they were otherwise engaging in illegally.
I just find it very difficult to believe the consumption of alcohol, walking up and down the streets is the best benefit
necessity.
for the city. Okay?
And
And that's my point.
Right. My under,
I would rather have something here in the community to invite them in,
Just the events. we have.
which is non-alcoholic, okay?
Well, they have a-
Dining along by, outside the buildings and stuff, it'd be great. Okay? Why does it have to entail, other than a special event, like a
Concert.
concert or something like that? Why does every day have to be open where alcohol could be consumed
So you would,
outside of the building?
you would prefer that it be restricted to events?
That would be my opinion, yes.
mine too. I agree. I don't,
I'm
I,
not a teetotaler by no means, okay? I just don't happen to choose to do it. Okay, the whole point is.
And by the way, I'm the
why should-
same. I
why
don't
does
even.
it have to be every day at lunch for somebody to go in and buy a beer and then just walk down the street and drink it, heading to wherever we decide it's going to be?
That's entirely reasonable.
Mhm.
But maybe we should ask for more input from both the licensees and see if they have a better plan than I've articulated. Because again, I don't work for them. I just, I have to
I
bring.
hope it's a good one.
Well, part of what I guess part of what I'm seeing is the idea that we would be expanding the number of events from just Wednesday nights for concerts. Is
So-
that my,
So I think part of the argument would be if you allow it every day, now for a community event that occurs in the heart of Cedar Springs, you could have a beer with it.
right?
But I don't see why we couldn't change the policy to say, well, instead of every day, if it receives community event status, now that day is a permissible day to do it.
Oh, that might be the way to do it.
I just don't know if the State Liquor Control Commission would go for it.
For part of the social. distancing.
But like, does this include family things? Cause like,
Concerts are family things.
no,
Walt
yeah, I
Disney
know, but
World serves liquor.
Like the Easter extravaganza.
yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
yeah,
Yeah.
the library activities.
Yeah. Do
Yes.
we really need?
Because no, thank you.
Yeah,
But like concert, cool.
yeah.
Cause that's adult, you bring your kids with you for
Mm,
the adult thing. As opposed to, we're going to the thing for my 5-year-old.
mhm,
I'm gonna be drinking a beer around all my 5-year-old and 3-year-olds. No thanks.
mhm.
If I may, it's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
One of our social district areas is by the amphitheater.
Mhm.
Where are we putting the park? Right next to the amphitheater. Do these people need to bring their kids into town and have alcohol to drink while the kids are over there playing in the park?
They're gonna bring it.
That's what it would take for me to have lunch.
I said.
Well, and I was gonna say, I would advocate they're bringing it now.
So.
And then the question becomes, do we provide an environment that makes it safe? And it doesn't make a hassle for our police to have to police it? Like he's saying, the county parks have a time frame when you're allowed to drink at a county park. And they don't say not near playground equipment, or you may not bring your children. I mean, alcohol is either legal for adults or it's not. I mean,
We're not arguing that, okay? We're not. I'm just arguing the need for every day at lunchtime here in the city of Cedar Springs.
So let me, if I may, let me take it back to the DDA, directly put it to the two licensees. And I'll probably contact them outside of the DDA as well and say, hey,
sure.
let's chisel down the point of when do we really want to do this?
Mhm.
Because for the few sales that they might have for somebody walking up and down the street, I think that's subsumed in the, the 50 sales that they'd have at each concert.
Mhm.
So, and there's an enforcement issue. Every single day, you don't know, where somebody might be drinking beers at.
Mhm.
So, I'd be perfectly okay limiting it somehow, other than what's been proposed.
I would like to see that.
And I also appreciate the idea of wanting to expand it to events. And that the only event might not be Wednesday night concerts. That there could be other events.
And just so everyone's aware, part of the proposal was it would be allowed at events, but not if the event organizer didn't want it.
Sure.
So for a
Which would
kids
be
event, a library
A
event,
church.
even though
event.
I need a beer to get along with 3-year-olds, I could imagine the library probably doesn't want that.
Okay.
But if the library is having an event for seniors, they might want that.
Yeah. can see
I
that.
mean, I'm not gonna tell 75-year-olds they're not allowed to drink.
I'm
It's
assuming
their
you-
choice
I'm
to
assuming
drink
if
or
you're
not.
75 years old is old.
I'm assuming they're a senior.
Oh,
I'm assuming they qualified as a
we're gonna be
senior.
real.
I was told by a
No,
lady
Mr.
who
Gross,
was 74 years old at the time,
I
that
did.
74 is the age of yes, ma'am.
I hear you.
And
So
I-
that's
Yes, ma'am.
74 is the age of yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, don't
correct
you get
answer.
ARPA card at
Yes, ma'am.
55 is.
I turned
50.
50 and got an AARP card.
I heard it wasn't actually.
All right, we're getting carried away
It's
with
50.
it.
So my point would be, so yes, Mr. Manager, you have some direction. Talk to the businesses and look at what it is that we're looking for expansion. I would also ask that you include Sergeant Probst in this conversation about enforcement, because we don't want to make something that's really difficult for him to have to deal with. So that would be my other piece of this.
Allowing people to do what they want to do.
We could allow it in the park, but then they would not be allowed to walk across the street.
Right. Right.
You gotta try to keep that social status, and I don't know what the state law rules are on.
Right, because otherwise they gotta like,
You also don't want to make it
Only-
so complicated for people though, but it's like you could do it there, but not there, and there is a fine, but not there, and then if you cross.
and
like,
only at
then it's
this
like-
time, and
And
we're
it's
gonna
only
track
the
you by 2
second
minutes.
Wednesday of
Yeah.
the fourth month in the
Exactly.
22nd year. I just can't.
Yeah.
Nightmare for
Like
police.
the song said, what's that song from here?
Yes.
It's the second house of the whatever.
Ah,
And
Oh,
Jupiter aligns with
right.
Mars.
So
indeed.
I will bring this back to council. Thank you.
Sounds
Thank you.
fabulous. All right, moving on. Communications, community event calendar, and the 2022 calendar. Any questions about that? Moving on, a reminder about the budget workshop meeting on March 17th. Should I bring snacks?
Just wear green or I'm gonna be mad.
Are you kidding? I am the
Oh,
lady of the
I
ugly
have a
sweater.
for that.
We
I have a sweater for that.
Oh, I bet you do.
So this is you have to be here. The meeting Zoom is for who?
So first of all, staff. We do have some members of staff who will be attending by Zoom. Now, I don't think we need technically a quorum for this meeting. It's a
Because we're
work,
not voting on anything.
and you're not gonna vote on anything.
This is the one that I'm gonna be late to,
That's fine.
right?
So,
The one that we discussed.
I mean, I don't want to tell you not to be here, but, you know, if you have to attend by Zoom, I don't see any legal reasons why you couldn't.
No.
Although it would be discouraged, I think, under the OMA.
So you're not allowed to vote. According to the document that I got, you're not even supposed to have discussion or input. But we can allow public comment for discussion and input, and the chair can recognize the public, even at times that are not public comment. So I'm gonna say, I'm willing to I'm
To
willing to
recognize
say,
a member of the public.
I'm willing to recognize a member of the public who might happen to be on council to have a comment on something, if you feel that you have a comment on something.
Right.
I think for me, the hard line is you can't vote. And we're not
We are
voting
voting.
on anything on the budget on the 17th. But overarching, that would be my position on, does that make sense?
I'd only discourage it because if there's a possibility that we're wrong, I'd rather not go to court. So
Well,
That would be
the remedy is you hold it again. So you know what? I'll be asking you to then come back and have a conversation about it when you're here. If that's someone that has an issue about it.
there is I think $1,000 fine if you deliberately violate OMA. But
I'm going to advocate that's not a deliberate violation if I'm
Yeah.
recognizing a member of the public to have a comment.
registered voter in the city of Cedar Springs.
Yeah, I don't think you lose your right
well,
to
and I
public comment.
think legally, the deliberateness is we don't know what the courts would do. We don't, this is not a bright line rule.
Yeah, so then how can it be deliberate though?
Just, hey, look, just giving you advice.
I don't know.
I'm
Lawyers.
telling you as the chair, this is where I feel comfortable with. So if you need to not be here, but you have a budget question, you're welcome to ask it.
Okay, thank you.
So I would,
All right.
I would also strongly encourage you, if you have questions while looking at the budget.
Email them.
Madam Mayor and I sat down, we talked about it at length. I'm happy to talk with you any day of the week. Miss Falcon here would be happy to sit down with you. It is slightly more complicated than we've done in the years past. We are drawing down on our fund balance a little bit.
We're gonna build some things.
We're gonna put that money out onto the street, so.
Okay. Miss Johnson.
Just a reminder, this is a legally noticed meeting.
Yes.
So action could happen at this meeting if it was necessary. I think Mr. Womack was saying that the purpose of it is for discussion on the budget.
Yes.
I just want to make that
Of
clarification.
course, it's a posted meeting. Someone could make a motion to vote, and if you were on Zoom, you could not vote. But there is no planned voting on the agenda.
This is at 6
Let
PM.
me just stop you for 1 second. It's entirely possible something comes up this week that I put your agenda together that needs action.
Okay, but that's not currently where we're at.
Got through all
Sure.
those addenda
So
at you.
just come here. Don't,
Okay, I'm gonna be here at 7
But if you can't be
or
here,
as soon as possible
You're
at
prior
7.
to
So I
that,
think I'm the
go
only
ahead
one.
and
that-
Zoom.
Yeah, I
Fine.
will.
And
Okay.
if
Okay.
for some reason there is a vote before 7, you can't.
Okay.
That's all.
but if you have a question, you can ask it.
Okay.
We're gonna be done by 7. So it's not gonna matter.
Okay.
Right, Darla?
Hope springs
See?
eternal.
Talk fast.
Okay, it is a compli- and
It's St.
Mr. Manager and I went over the budget and there's a lot in it.
Yeah, oh, I'm.
There's a lot in it.
Beer too.
All right, anything else then, Ms. Johnson? Okay, so moving on then, and I will absolutely wear an ugly sweater, so we'll be in for that. DDA 17 North Main Street proposal.
Yep, so DDA felt strongly enough about 17 North Main Street and its ability to, I guess, help the downtown. They've also hired Fleece and Vanderbrink, who are the folks who did the Heart of Cedar Springs master plan, to help put together a master plan proposal for that property,
Yay.
Hey,
and they're paying for it.
that's exciting, right?
Yeah.
Water system cybersecurity.
Yeah, so we get these notices all the time. The federal government's letting us know that China might want to turn off our wastewater treatment plant.
Because they're really interested in our poop.
They are.
Yeah.
So, something we do and plan to continue upgrading with our IT rights.
Okay, any questions on that? I just love our wastewater treatment folks. They're just phenomenal.
Good peeps.
City Hall accessibility report.
So back in 2018 or 2019, we did invite a disability advocate group out here to City Hall. They've identified a number of changes that could be done here at City Hall to improve our ADA accessibility. You guys got ramps here at the end of your thing. That's part of it. But little things, toilet improvements, whatever. But I put it in there for you guys to look at to see if there's anything you want to add.
The entrance works now, right? Because we redid the entrance as part of the voting. We used our CBDG money,
Of
City Hall.
So one of the things they propose in here is that we redo the entrance.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
It's super
Now, I
tight.
spoke with Mr. LaRose about this. We're probably looking at between $25,000 and $40,000
Ugh,
to redo City Hall
Why
again.
is everything so expensive?
Well, construction's expensive.
Now,
But this is where we might want to start thinking about the idea of maybe this building is not the best place for City Hall.
and so that's a discussion we'll have for another day.
Look at Darla, look at me with eyeballs.
So just as a heads up, if we build a DPW garage on funding we get from West Street and the sheriff's department moves out, now we've got this huge building for 6 people. So we may want to move at some point. But that being aside, give it to you for
Yeah, they
review
will.
and looking at, see if there's anything you want to add to the budget.
And weren't we looking at a building for a DPW garage that already exists that we might be able to buy?
We did. I don't think it went much further than talking about it.
Okay. We'll talk more.
We will talk more.
We'll talk more. All right. Then let's see. Alpha Family Women's Center Community Event Application approved. They do this every year, right? It's their Walk for Life thing. Any questions on that? Department reports, City Manager.
Got nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Think, I got
You wrote it
nothing.
all
You
down.
got lots of stuff. Department of Public Works, can Mr. LaRose send a text?
I don't think he's listening anymore.
Okay. He lost his,
Go with God.
go with God, that's right. May the force be with you. Let's see, Police Department, Sergeant Probst, you got anything for us?
We have the gravel race meeting at 2 o'clock Monday, and we have our first red flannel meeting at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Long live the underwear.
Indeed. Busy.
Let's see, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Fire Department, Marty. Not using the microphone.
I have a couple different things I'd like to present for the council maybe to chew on.
Sure.
Well, let me start off by saying thank you for allowing us to purchase that used vehicle.
Thank you for getting it.
That brings up an issue, and I've talked to Mr. Womack about it, and maybe I'm stepping on a couple toes, but I'd like the council to chew on the fact, what are we gonna do with the old one? It's 36 years old, it's functional. It has to have a couple of repairs. My thought was maybe donate it to a needy department, UP or somewhere. Maybe we could sell it for $1. I don't know. I would like some input from the council.
Do you have a strong feeling on it?
I've chewed on this more than I probably should have, but I would like to donate it to a needy department. However, there would, talking with Mr. Womack, there'd be some considerations, liability and that type of stuff. They're gonna have to take out a loan on it just to get it back to wherever, because it's not good mileage.
Sure.
They'd have to stop probably 3 times and fill it. Mr. Gross was there on the department when it was fairly new, 1986.
I was a sophomore in high school.
Just food for thought for the council, and there's no hurry on it. Going hand in hand with that, we took our newer used engine down to Jenison yesterday, and they're working on it as we speak. We got some things done on it. The council approved the monies last month. I just wanted to let them know that we're moving ahead with it. It was a scheduling conflict with the vendor that repairs our equipment, so we were able to get it in. We should have it back by Monday, hopefully. Another reminder that it's in my report, my summary, that April 8th is the Fire Commission meeting, which is a Friday morning at 8:30. We're hosting it here at the fire station in the meeting room, and Spencer Township bought their new truck through the Fire Commission, and it will be here for the Fire Commission members to enjoy, because Spencer doesn't have the room to host a meeting. So I offered our meeting room, and any council member that's around on the 8th of April at 8:30 is welcome to
Might be on spring break.
um,
Might be able to do that.
take a look at Spencer's new engine. We're doing 2026 for a new one, so that's not that far away. Been working with Darla, setting monies aside to
8:30, you said?
8:30 Friday morning at April 8th. We've been setting monies aside to replace some of this equipment and to buy the county engine from the Fire Commission. And one other thing is the daylight savings time Saturday night.
Yes, it is.
We will be hosting some classes Sunday morning, so that means I gotta get up an hour earlier.
Oh, my God.
Rose, that bothers me.
Bothers me too.
Right, having said everything, if there's any questions from the council?
I just wanted to thank you for allowing the food handout at the fire barn, so people don't have to stand out in the snow and rain to get their food supplements.
We have a schedule, I think, for the next 5 months, 6
Yeah.
months. Oh, we will be there, and we're glad to do it.
I think
Yeah.
Darla's part of, didn't you do part of the setup on getting
We,
that? Food
We
safety.
seem to have a system. I don't know, it could probably be tweaked, but it seems to work fairly well.
I heard it's just great.
And I feel like the need's gonna go up. I mean, this increased
Well-
gas prices and is we, there's, I mean,
I've been grocery shopping for a while now at the Myers. Yeah, prices have went up, yes.
yeah, well, and not to get too like geopolitical, but this is the social studies teacher and Ukraine is a major food producer.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be true if they're at war. So we're going to see the global supply of things like wheat is going to decrease. So we're going to see some prices, I would imagine, go up in addition to oil with the situation. So this is huge. I really appreciate that. Did you do that through the Rotary? How did you? Yeah. So Darla does all these just amazing things
Does.
that have nothing to do with being a finance director, that just have to do with being a good human and a good member of our community.
And a Rotarian.
And helping to get things like food supplies out to people who need food, who are food insecure. So hooray. Do we need to put a little pop in for where you can get that and when you can get it?
Usually it's in the post. It's,
Okay.
and I believe it's actually, lets residents know, and this is like third or fourth time we've did it at the new station, so. I appreciate Darla too, but it's my turn.
I just didn't know if we needed to put a pop out for that
If there's,
at the fire station.
I have a,
if there's nothing else, I will set.
I think,
I
I think
have-
Mayor Pro Tem has a
I
question.
have
for you.
a fire truck related questions this entirely. So our old truck, the one that we are decommissioning, that we were considering getting rid of. So would it be fair to say that if we got an 18-year-old truck for around 40,000, this truck that needs repair is probably worth between 10 to 15,000?
If we were to put it on auction, I would,
Same row.
Mr. Gross may be able to help me, but I'm guessing at best 3,000 to 5,000.
That's what I
Okay,
was-
well, and then, so knowing that this is the worth of the truck, does it cost more than $3,000 to fix what's wrong with it?
Yes. Am I right?
We previously talked about 1,000 to 1,500.
Yeah, what has happened is, in brief, there's a pipe that runs through, it was called the water.
Well, so
Oh, I just went blank.
that's okay, I'm gonna cut
water
you off right there,
manifold
because
and-
whatever,
It's the manifold.
Water manifold
You're
and
gonna
all,
talk a
all
lot
of
of
your
what
outlets
to
come
me.
off that water manifold. Well, after 36 years, it's, when they pressure tested it, it popped a pinhole in it. And it'll be about $1,000 to fix that
Okay.
pinhole.
well, I
You
just,
could still use it as a pumper. The only trouble is your feet are gonna get wet.
I just
Weeks.
wanted to make sure that if we were to sell this to a small department for $1, we're not actually costing them more money than we're saving them.
We would let them know before we sold it.
Yeah, it would be in the description
Okay,
as
Is it-
minor leak.
Chief Fraser knows like I do, there's departments up north,
uh-huh.
they're still using old outdated gear to fight fires with.
Well, and I'm
And it's-
happy.
That's where
Right.
it would be a benefit.
Mhm.
I'm,
Are we
I'm,
gonna lose much? Not
We
really.
just want to
No.
make sure we're not passing dirty.
I want to make sure that I'm not selling them a $3,000 truck
Pig
that
in a
has a
poke.
$10,000 problem.
No, it wouldn't be a pig in a poke. They'd understand
Okay.
exactly what's wrong with it.
Okay,
And I got records for everything up until this point.
okay, then I would be
Yeah.
happy to sell it to someone for $1.
Ditto.
Well,
As
that's,
is.
that's why I presented it tonight. I want the council to
Yeah.
chew on it a little bit, think
Sure.
about it.
Part of being good community members
Won't want
is
that.
protecting the assets of this community, but it's also being members of the greater community of our state. And yeah,
Well, I think Mr. Womack and I'd like a little bit of a direction, which way the council would lean.
I would agree with Miss Nixon. I would be happy to sell it for a sign off on liability in $1.
Well, I'll work with Mr. Womack on it and we'll have something hopefully by next month.
Okay.
Anything else? I will go sit and be quiet.
Is that the same as sit down, shut up?
City clerk.
I don't have much. We had a pretty low voter turnout for election day. Unfortunately, we had more absentees than I was expecting, so that was good. It was still relatively low, but more than expected. Other than that, just a reminder that nominating petitions and affidavits of identity are due April 19th by 4 PM if you'd like to run for city council.
I will be coming in to get one.
Who else is running?
Should be Renee,
Renee's up.
unless you're not. I hope you are.
Yes.
And
Unless you don't want me to.
I certainly want you to.
will the school board also be on that same ballot?
Should be.
Okay, so if someone wanted to run for school board, they should also get
Yeah,
cracking.
we gotta talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That
Well, not,
feels
I got,
ominous.
I got stuff.
You got wine, I hope.
I got
Anyway,
wine.
I have a primary.
Okay.
maybe.
No, I do not.
So thank you for running that. I was here that day and you all did a fabulous job, whether people showed up to do much or not. So hooray. And finance director, you have a big old chunk for us. boy.
Yes, your packets are in front of you. Don't forget them next Thursday. I was going to offer to Miss Hamel or any council member, if you had questions, I just offered to you because you haven't gone through a budget workshop with the city with this thick of a packet
I'm
yet.
gonna have questions because I like
Um,
budgeting in my households and all of these numbers are crazy to me. So I will have questions about like, is this crazy? And you're gonna be like, no, that's.
I can give you some history, you know, if you have anything you want to talk about before Thursday night's meeting. I'll be in the office next week. Just give me a call, give me an
Okay.
email, but other council members too.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You make a very readable budget. I mean, I went over it with the manager this last week, but having done this with you a couple of times now and having done this with other finance directors, you make an accessibly accessible.
Thank you.
And a ways of explaining it. are
Yeah.
Really good.
Like that
It's
we're
very
buying a brush
accessible.
scrapper.
So I greatly appreciate that.
Yep.
Moving on to the code enforcement, I think we've got stuff on that. That's been very helpful as we've been trying to deal with this non-conforming, conforming, illegal
Yep,
apartment, et cetera.
I think we're on the right path.
I think so. Anybody got anything else on that? Building inspection. I don't think we have, although we're probably gonna have some of that coming if we're gonna be doing this apartment.
So we generally just don't put these into your agenda. And we receive stuff in the office all the time and we have it at the office if you'd like to look at it, but it's terribly boring.
Right.
Not really of interest to council. And I suspect the next time we redo your bylaws or agenda format, we'll get rid of that.
Okay. But we do have some stuff coming with potential on that. Any boards and commission minutes? I don't know if we need to talk about the KCEA piece of that and NKC, Parks and Rec.
So we don't have the minutes for you.
Okay.
specifically. And perhaps now is not the best time. to
Maybe
talk
it's
about
not.
that. It might appear on your budget agenda, but I don't know.
We can
just
chat
see
about
what
it
they
then.
Yes.
Decide.
So, and I just want to say Darla has been amazing at volunteering to be on that board and trying to keep that afloat and make that work. And I don't know if that's always conveyed in that capacity. So I want to make sure that you know that because we've been very supportive though.
Bye.
We've been very supportive of keeping that afloat and she's put in a whole lot of volunteer hours and trying to keep that afloat as it's looks like it's probably not going to float anymore. So with that, council comments, Mr. Gross.
Missed out on a lot of things. A couple of months that I missed. I think most of you are aware now of what's going on in my life. My intent is to stay with the department, not the department, but with the board, okay?
The firefighter is strong in
Yeah,
you.
well, it's still there, but obviously you can live without me here. So
What?
that's
No.
not
We
the
will-
right comment, I guess I should say.
We will manage without you
So,
and we want you to do what you need to do to take care of your family.
but anyway, I think there was some good dialogue tonight. I do think we got carried over on some things a little bit longer than we should have, and I think we discussed it more frequently than we needed to. But I want to go back through that now. I'll cut mine short so we can move on.
Okay, Ms. Powell.
Send my wishes to Barb. Tell her I said hi, thinking about her. I neglected to mention at PC, our planning commission meeting the other night. Those guys did a great job and I
Yes.
was very proud of how they worked on solving yet another issue. And blood draw is Tuesday and we're running a little low, so.
At the library.
At the library. And so if anybody you know has time or blood.
Willing to get poked.
And thank everybody for all you do.
Okay, Ms. Race.
I was just gonna put that in my calendar, Tuesday. It goes until when?
Noon to 7:30. Well, it's actually 12:30 to
How much
7.
do you have to weigh?
I don't know.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean.
You have to go on their website to make your appointment.
Okay.
Very simple, very easy to navigate website, versity.org. And if you get in there and make your appointment, if you can't make it on Tuesday, you can go on another day. It has like
Different one.
different cities and
Yeah, it's
everything.
just not at the library.
Yes, it's
They will let you walk up too.
sometimes.
They let me walk up.
Yeah,
I
but
was gonna
sometimes
say,
they
I've
can't.
walked up.
And
It's
hopefully
very
we
bad
have
now.
lots. They can average about 30 people, 32 people in the afternoon. So
So if you can, go book ahead. If you
Yes.
can't,
Try.
pop in and see.
Yeah.
I think it's
it's-
I
110
think they're gonna
pounds.
turn you away right now.
probably
We
not.
asked him over that, so we'll be good.
Yeah, I am just under that at the moment, which is sort of one of my issues. But anyway, so anything else, Ms. Powell? Okay,
Good.
Ms. Hamel.
I just want to say thank you guys for my patience on my ranting and raving about certain agenda items.
Let it out.
And
Didn't throw anything. So.
I am working to
I
have a very
appreciate you guys.
collaborative. I want all of your input. I am the chair, but I am not, I love Mayor Emeritus, but I'm very much not shut up and vote. I am very much, I want to hear what you have to say.
I do have a lot of opinions, so.
So, which is why the city voted to put you in that seat.
Mhm.
So that is what I consider part of my job. All right. Ms. Atchison.
Ditto on everything everybody said. We love our staff and it's kind of hard when you hear somebody from the public making statements that they don't really understand things about. I think that it'd be great that we want your input, but maybe do a little bit more investigating first or asking questions about what's going on with certain things before you start accusing people of being a certain way. Because this staff here has been the greatest in years and they're really looking out for the city and putting in extra time. That's not your work hours to help out with certain boards and committees, and that's a lot to put in. So that's about all I got to say.
I'm just going to close with, I am really supportive of our city clerk. I know you're going to probably have there's a person who just won a primary who has feels some kind of way about elections and about the veracity of elections. And our clerk is been absolutely nailed on every audit, perfect every single time. And I greatly appreciate that. And I want to just like be publicly on the record that I have 100% faith in our elections and our voting and our clerk's ability to have a
Clean.
completely clean, accurate election and
Transparent.
completely transparent. And she puts in a whole lot of work in making sure all of those I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And I'm greatly appreciative of that. And big thank you to Darla for all this work on the budget and all of the time that you have put in all of your community events to really, you all do your job, but you also are just good humans and show up to be members of the community in ways that you don't have to, that I think we need to recognize and acknowledge. And we see this with our fire department. We see it with our city manager who's, messaging me on a Sunday and I'm saying, dude, aren't you supposed to be like watching a movie or something? So, it's just, I really appreciate the community piece of the community of Cedar Springs, and you all are a part of that. So thank you for that. And with that, we're adjourned. Yay.